Yellow, yellow, testing, testing. Testing, 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 testing. Alright, my audio seems to sound fine. Alrighty, everyone, let me put myself on screen. Hello, everybody, inside the one and only. And I'm here today to play a bit more Minecraft, I guess. And I want to continue digging my hole. I know there's a little bit of drama on the Discord. I hope that doesn't balloon into anything bigger. Like, yeah, some guy insulted me, but like, I don't really take insults personally. In the end, why do we all have to hate each other? Why can't we all just love each other? Don't hate, just appreciate. Anyway, that's enough of that. Enough said, enough said. Let's pull up. This aside. Now, I saw a video essay right as I was ending stream yesterday that I really wanted to watch, so I'm gonna pull that up. So I think I need to reopen the server because it took a bit too long. Yep. $5 off Jets 8 corner. Jets Pizza. Alright, give me my open up the server now, sir. Nope.
Horror stories have existed for centuries. Gothic novels lead to silent horror films, lead to mid-century psychological horror movies, 80s slashers, and eventually to children's horror book series and modern horror movies. These stories see an array of horrifying creatures. When writing or directing a horror project, it makes sense to start with a terrifying villain, right? Strangely, there's a genre of horror film and literature that focuses on creatures and objects that aren't very scary on their own. Currently, a lot of our horror stories focus on the corruption of innocent figures. Children are innately innocent beings, lending to their fear factor when they're transformed into one of the most recognizable forms of horror.
Is it taking so long?
Come play with us, Daddy.
Children's music has changed too, with nursery rhymes gaining a horror association with Tiptoe by the Window and the music box melodies being distorted by movies like Insidious and Conjuring. Clowns are friendly and childlike figures known for their ability to bring joy and laughter, until they're twisted into horror figures in books like The Circus of Dr. Lao and movies like It and Killer Clowns from Space. Even the most innocent figures of the bunch, dolls,
Look who's come to your house to stay. A pal you can play with all day long.
with their purpose being of
Why are you
children's
taking so
stories, they're
long?
designed to be as cute as possible. Are
You're
worked into
taking
works
too
like
long.
in books like R.L. Stein's Night of the Living Dummy. Why are we often more scared by innocent creatures turned evil than outright sinister horror creatures? I'm gonna attempt to answer this by using an example of one of the most
There we
innocent
go.
friendly creatures I can think of. Rabbits. Just by looking at them, it's clear that they're pretty unthreatening. They're small and fluffy, and their status as a prey animal solidifies the decision not to fear them. But they're inextricably linked to fear and violence through their presentation in media. Let's take the first example that probably comes to mind when I say the word rabbit. Alice's Adventures in Wonderland is an 1865 children's book written by Lewis Carroll that follows the titular Alice
Alrighty.
down a rabbit hole and into the fantasy world of Wonderland, where she
Sleep
meets
real
the
quick.
characters, drinks random potions, and defeats a tyrannical queen who chops people's
So I
heads.
did do a few
The
things
head
before the
is popular among
stream.
my generation, that continues
I got
to
enough
be
XP to repair my pickaxe, which is this is the pickaxe we're probably going to be using. Hopefully it doesn't cost too much to repair. Let me pause this while I talk. So yeah, I got the pickaxe now. It's all good. I got some ingredients so I could make some more food because I'm starting to run low. Alright, we got more pumpkin pies. And then I made this copper armor because I'm wearing away the durability on my diamond stuff. I just had a bunch of copper laying around, and I really wanted to try it because this only got implemented recently, so I've never actually used copper armor. Alright, we're all coppered up, I guess. Yeah, we're smelting a bit more copper. Can you make copper pickaxes? Hold on, that's actually... I didn't know that you could do that. I thought it was just armor. Alright, we'll experiment with that in a bit. But yeah, for now, we're gonna go back out there and keep digging. Let me put the thing back on.
bloody personalities of rabbits in the real world. Jump forward about 100 years and you get probably the most violent depiction of rabbits. 1978's Watership Down is a terrifying children's movie, and that's a loose classification, about a rabbit facing oppression and violence from both predators and the authoritarian leader, General Woodward. There's a literal rabbit slaughter in this movie, and that's probably the nail in the coffin for people's association with rabbits to violence. When you think about it, the people who made some of the movies that we mentioned later were young children when this movie came out, and that traumatizing image can change the perception of rabbits forever. Richard Kelly, the director of Donnie Darko, even said that when designing the character of Frank, he wanted him to be disturbing and animalistic, and that the 1972 Watership Down novel was the inspiration for the character. The direction and lighting of Frank's scenes, the score that accompanies him, and his costume design all contribute to a very eerie feeling surrounding the character. From a narrative perspective, he symbolizes mortality, and Donnie's struggle with identity and decision-making. Towards the end, Frank is unmasked and revealed to be a regular human, contributing to this notion that a regular innocent creature is enclosed in his violent and disturbing symbolic shell. A similar relationship is explored in the 1950 film Harvey, where Jimmy Stewart is acquainted with an imaginary rabbit that represents duality and an escape from reality. This notion even appears in music. Jefferson Airplane's song White Rabbit tells the Alice in Wonderland story, the children's tale, through a very eerie song with a soft-spoken voice and a haunting melody. Again, a seemingly innocent story is obscured by reframing its contents to be creepy. Oftentimes, this symbolism introduces other plots to explain the violent nature. In 1972's Night of the Lepus, the appearance and aggression of rabbits is directly linked to their forced experimentation by humans. They transform from cute, fluffy pets into horror creatures that inflict violence and destruction. This story aims to explore the relationship between humans and animals that we only view as beings that exist for our need to further human scientific understanding. A similar story is explored in Jordan Peele's Us. In the opening scene, the first thing we see are rabbits trapped in cages. This scene is creepy for a number of reasons. The music, the lack of specificity in the location, and the confinement lead us to assume the worst fate for these rabbits. The initial assumption likely being that they're about to be violently experimented on. Turns out their fate is even worse. They're about to be eaten. This cements them as part of the cycle of violence. Survival and death, predator and prey. Their status as a symbol of innocence.
Alright, I'd have to resize that real quick.
The violent nature of tether. Their eventual connection to the people above. And
Yeah, it looks good.
We're human too, you know. Exactly like you.
The rabbits are innocent to the people above, but mere sustenance, a means for survival to the people below, mirroring the way the tethered and the people above view each other. Their cages are also in classrooms, possibly hinting towards the use of rabbits in experimentation for educational understanding. Suffice it to say, the inclusion of rabbits in Us is not a coincidence. Nothing in a Jordan Peele movie is. But he stated that in order to make a good horror movie, you have to start with something that scares you.
Really try to make something that incorporates what I love about those and sort of
Alright, let's get down
For
here.
us, he cited his own fear of coming face to face with an evil doppelganger himself. And clearly this was a popular enough fear to make the movie a commercial success, earning $70 million in the United States on its opening weekend. But why rabbits? Well, looking at the other interviews that Peele did for this movie, it becomes abundantly clear that he has a fear for rabbits. In an interview with Time, he said, rabbits, they're supposed to be cute. On paper, they're adorable and lovable, but have you ever gotten close to a rabbit? You can tell in their eyes they have a brain of a sociopath. If you put a rabbit brain in a human body, you have Michael Myers. They have no empathy. They're an animal of duality. They're adorable, but they terrify me at the same time. And they've got those scissor-like ears that creep me out. So it's clear that his existing fear for the creatures led to their inclusion in his horror movie. Even his comment about their scissor-like ears and the symbol of scissors in the movie as the chosen weapon of the tethered and the tool to make the hands across America paper cutouts fits with the message of the film. In another interview, he shared the first horror movie that he remembered watching as a kid.
So
I'm
appropriate
mining.
for how old I was, and yet I was
Also,
able to
I
watch
see
it and
wonder
understand
why
it,
they
and I
kill
felt less
me, I'm
scared
just
than I
mining.
did before watching it. So that's how I knew power of horror.
It makes complete sense that the first horror movie he watched revolved around a fly's DNA being mixed with a human to create this disgusting creature. It's the same story that's been molded with rabbits in the media. A creature with a previously innocent reputation is distorted in a horror movie, and impacts its reputation to the viewer. From animated kids movies to adult horror movies, we see this mixing of rabbits with horror. In Wallace and Gromit: Curse of the Were-Rabbit, Wallace is trying to cure the rabbit
Wallace and
population
Gromit.
and accidentally creates a giant human-rabbit hybrid that terrifies the townspeople. The film is lighthearted, but the stop-motion animation in this unnatural hybrid can be scary to child audiences. David Lynch's surreal sitcom Rabbits is a more outwardly disturbing take on the unnatural human-rabbit hybrid. The anthropomorphic family of rabbits is living in an eerie sitcom reality, giving the viewer a sense of unease.
It's a simple, easy, effortless technique that allows any human being to dive within and transcend and experience this ocean of pure consciousness.
If rabbits don't exhibit horror behaviors, they just have a hint of creepiness. One of the main characters in Secret History who meets a violent end is named Bunny. The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane is a children's book about a stuffed rabbit, but Edward is consistently abandoned and experiences poverty and neglect in his journey. If rabbits do exhibit horror behaviors, they're often not some metaphorical reasoning in the background, they're the point of focus. The Bunnicula book series follows the family dog Harold, theorizing that the new pet rabbit is a vampire. These fears are eventually healed, but the cover of all the books features a scary-looking rabbit with furrowed brows and bright red eyes. Horror movies like Bunny Man and Sexy Beast also directly center around rabbits being an apt focus for horror, and that's not even mentioning video games.
Even before I came out, you won't see my face.
Bobby from the Five Nights at Freddy's
Nights
series is
at
an animatronic robot
Freddy.
haunted by the spirit of a murdered child. Robbie the Rabbit from Silent Hill 3 is a rabbit mascot for the Lakeside Amusement Park. Following the themes of the game, his innocent appearance contrasts the dark setting, and he appears as a symbol for fear and unsolved childhood trauma. Even in more indie games like the Rusty Lake franchise, we see characters like Mr. Rabbit, a mysterious anthropomorphic rabbit figure, murder the player Dale's family at his 9th birthday party. This act symbolizes the death of innocence, which goes back to the original characterization of rabbits. So why is this? Why are there so many examples of rabbits as symbols of fear and violence? Well, if we go back through history, we can find a number of possible explanations. Looking back at medieval art, there's a strangely large array of works that feature rabbits as violent creatures. These drawings are drolleries, small artworks in the margins of manuscripts that often feature funny scenes and a mixture of animals. In these drolleries, the enjoyment of them comes from the distortion of reality, a reimagination of the world from a different point of view. So the humor in these likely comes from the universally considered innocent creatures performing violent acts. Rabbits may have also gained a negative reputation because of their link to disease. Tularemia was a disease first discovered in 1911. In 1919, bacteriologist Edward Francis linked the disease to wild rabbits, earning it the name rabbit fever. This disease led to a fear surrounding wild rabbits as disease carriers. This negative attitude surrounding rabbits existed years earlier in 1887, when rabbits brought to mainland Australia in 1859 began reproducing at an alarming rate, and 25,000 euros were offered for any method for the effectual extermination of rabbits. They were viewed as a nuisance. Rabbits took on other interesting symbolic meanings in different cultures as well. African folklore features a character named Brer Rabbit, a small but clever trickster. In tarot, though the meaning can be changed by the position of the cards, the rabbit tarot usually symbolizes transformation, fertility, and intuition. Another reason rabbits might have developed this reputation as horror creatures is because of their association with witches. Witches, like rabbits, are often depicted living in the forest, being one with nature. Both are associated with superstition, fertility, and cunning. Historically, witches don't have the best reputation, and if black cats, which were associated with witches, ended up with their silly reputation, it makes sense why this connection might lead people to view rabbits in a different light as well. As Christianity began to take over Western Europe, rabbits that were originally associated with the goddess due to their supposed ability to procreate alone were regarded with suspicion because of their association to witches. Stories spread about men following rabbits that were really witches, and their reputation took a major hit. This is solidified in pop culture today by rabbits being familiars to witches, seen in 2015's The Witch, where the rabbit is an eerie, unexplained creature hinted to be related to the witch and the strange occurrences of the town. Another reason for the supernatural association to rabbits can be found in magic shows. Illusionists like Harry Houdini
Illusion, Michael. Trick is something a whore does for money.
would pull rabbits out of hats in the 19th century.
I know
Realistically,
that
this
clip.
was likely due to the availability of rabbits, them being small creatures that were easy to work with, and the magic appearance of a cute creature being popular with children.
Pull out a rabbit, but that's a rabbit out of a handkerchief. It's out of a silk. It's not a real top hat. It's also not a real rabbit.
And the last weird association I can think of is the Easter Bunny. Probably the most lighthearted character of the bunch. He's fluffy, he hides eggs for children to have fun finding, and he gets you a break from school. But even this figure holds a strange juxtaposition with his cheery and light commercialized identity, and the true purpose of Easter as a celebration of the resurrection of Jesus Christ in Christianity. Just like Jordan Peele saying there's a weirdness behind their cute eyes, and just like a real human character existing behind Frank's mask, one of the most highly recognizable holiday figures is just the shell of a rabbit concealing the true internal purposes of this religious holiday. In terms of their representation in horror, it relates to the creation of new fears, because when you base a horror creature off of a normal innocent creature, it allows the viewer to be scared by that during their everyday life. I've never run into a ghost or a zombie, so I'm able to dissociate those creatures from my own life. But Psycho made an entire generation scared of showers, and Scream made people jump in fear every time their landline rang. There's a sort of uncanny valley when innocent creatures are amalgamated into evil things. New Yorker film critic Richard Brody stated that the rabbit's cute and gentle air of innocence becomes an easy mask for macabre design, while also suggesting powers of easy and flexible
emeralds.
largely out of view, and suddenly results in the last
I
month's
found
life.
more
The
emeralds
ordinary
in
uncanny
these
valley
two
and the
mining
harmless is
sessions
the
than I
source of
have like in
all
any
of
other
the
point in
rabbits speaks to the
Minecraft.
possibility of horror. You wouldn't think that an innocent creature could become somewhat irrational fear, but their history explains how their current perception was slowly being built throughout the centuries. Rabbits are anxious animals, and their consistent preference for flight in fight-or-flight situations lends them to be easily used in movies that center around grim subject matter. It poses the question of what innocuous creature will be transformed into a horror icon next. We'll just have to wait and see.
When people believe something can be real, it will scare them more.
I was 10 years old, it was Scream. And I still remember the VHS. The VHS, I was afraid of the tape. I was afraid that the tape would do something to me. As children, we fear these things. We have fears out. We tell people because we're unsophisticated. And as we get older, we still have fears. We just
I mean,
David Lynch is not a horror movie, and still makes some of the scariest stuff out there. And he's one someone that makes his own
Okay.
Si llega Javi, me marca para decir, ya llegó.
Okay.
Y puede acudir.
Okay.
about there being underworld and they're being duplicated, and then the horses, how they're being used in the Hollywood context.
When he told me his dream.
All right, that was pretty good. Pretty good. Let's go find another video essay then. Ooh, Hylix. 2 hours? Wow. Are we gonna watch this 2-hour review of Hylix? That's the question. It has Hylix 2 in there. I don't want Hylix 2 spoilers. I still gotta play it at some point. I'll save this to add later. I'll save this to watch later, and then if we ever play Hylix 2, we'll watch it after we finished. Yep. Oh no. We'll watch this, I guess.
Authentic, energetic, reflective, and open. These words represent the backronym for the title of Microsoft's mid-2000s design language known as Windows Aero, a visual style fully introduced with the Windows Vista operating system, but beginning its development with Windows XP, featuring a prominent focus on reflective surfaces, glass, and translucency. This design philosophy would eventually branch out into its more all-encompassing, better-known title of Fluid Aero, where it would come to be associated with the constant implementation of skew and morph, recreating pre-existing objects and features that in this new context are functionally pointless, but led to a sense of familiarity to help new users better understand their function. For example, an electric light utilizing fake candle flames.
Fruity Aero quickly became extremely popular in the 2000s. Following on from the Y2K aesthetic, it seemed like every tech company under the sun was using it to make their devices and their software look futuristic, and it has a real charm to it. Eventually, everything would go to be replaced with the bland, boring minimalism that we all loathe today, and as a result of that, Fruity Aero has seen a resurgence in the form of nostalgic yearning. Like all good things in the world of media, FA has been mined away out the nostalgia point for a good few years now. People harking back to the days of Windows XP and 7, the age of the early internet where it felt like you could do anything, and before it felt like everything was owned by like 2 companies. And out of this yearning for the past, I discovered what has quickly become my favorite way for people to express this nostalgia, through horror. The thing about this era of computers and the internet is that for all the good memories and love people have for it, parallel to that is an underlying sense of dread. With a much freer internet, with everyone's knowledge of it being far, far less than what it would go on to be, that led to a lot of misfortune, viruses, troll site, unmitigated violence and self-expression. There's a reason that there's dozens upon dozens of videos and posts from this era that the mere mention of are enough to instill a fight-or-flight response. And one of the greatest ways this mixed bag of horror and fond memories has been explored by creators is through digital horror. I've talked about this stuff before, and while there may only be one good series for every 50,000 garbage files, the good ones are really something. They're able to explore some of the most horrifying and depressing themes through a veneer of childhood familiarity, able to resemble the websites and software of your younger years just enough to truly give you a sense of unease when all inevitably goes wrong.
Alrighty.
Math games, gaming, kids are among my favorite independent web series, and they all left me hungry for more. So I spent a long-ass time mindlessly scrolling through forums and subreddits trying to find any other series that could scratch the digital horror itch in my brain. I saw a lot of slop, a lot of failed potential, and right as I was certain I would never find anything decent in the trash can that we call the online horror community, I found it. I found Geb. Geb operating system is an online horror web series that started in February 2024 and is seemingly flown under the radar for a lot of people. Its creator is pretty mysterious. Other than a Reddit account, I was unable to find any social media presence for them, and even that is solely dedicated to Geb. It has 6 entries at the time I'm writing this, and it's littered with puzzles and secrets. It manages to nail making you feel like you're going insane upon a blind viewing. But you know what? I'm going to stop rambling and actually get to the videos. The first video for the series opens on a PC running GebOS coming online. Whoever is using the PC logs in and immediately hops on a website reminiscent of an old school forum to ask a question. Weird dreams. I already know this will be branded as stupid, but I really need to talk to someone about this. It's been a while since my parents and I all have the same dream. It's not even something that strange. It's usually just a series of places that I don't think I've ever seen. The thing that creeps me out the most is that my parents did. It's like, I don't know, their memories. If anyone knows how this is called in a scientific, biological way, please tell me. Thanks. The English for this is a little bit broken. I'm unsure if that's intentional or not, seeing as this kind of becomes a reappearing issue as the series progresses, but the basic gist is our user is having collective dreams with their parents of certain locations the parents have seen, but our user never has, assuming these may be memories from the parents that the user is witnessing. After that, we get a message from the GoGo messages from someone called Lulu, who reveals our user is called Nora. Lulu and Nora chat back and forth for a bit until Lulu sends over a link for the two of them to play a game called Splash Paint. The goal is to draw away the possible screen. The challenge is a pet for which
I feel like I've heard that name somewhere.
So they kept doodling at what taking notes of the script. Next up, the parents has to draw a relaxing place, and for this one, Lulu draws a beach, and Nora draws what looks like a field. During this, the screen flickers for a moment. The same field Nora is seemingly doodling.
Is this a relaxing place for you?
It doesn't take long for the game to freak out, duplicating, mirroring itself over and over until the computer just can't get hard enough to compete and breaks down. Upon starting back up, Nora finds that Lulu didn't wake up and has gone on to do something else. With nobody left to chat to, Nora checks up on the questions she posted earlier, with responses that are not the most helpful. She closes the page to find a folder which wasn't on the desktop before this. Upon opening it, there's only one file. Making the most intelligent decision humanly possible, Nora immediately opens the file without any hesitation, and we're shown this. An audio visualizer, some kind of containment space, what appears to be a bathroom, a CAT scan of someone's brain, something so distorted that I can't make out what it is, maybe a person, a diagram of Earth's layers rapidly cycling in and out, a page of cryptic, unintelligible numbers, a clip of Hayao Miyazaki, co-founder of Studio Ghibli, during a recording of him being shown an AI presentation and calling it an insult to life itself, three censored men along with what looks like a crime scene, a diagram of something written in Italian, what could be a picture of a garden or somewhere outdoors, someone's kitchen with a boiling kettle, I think, and that's the end of the first video. Before we get into this, and fall further and further down the rabbit hole of dogs, gets and brains, if this has intrigued you, I implore you to go check out the series before I spoil the rest of it and try to piece the puzzle together. My experience with the series has been so good because I didn't know what was coming next, and you can only experience it that way once. So if you have the time, please just go check out the original series itself. I'll have it linked in the description. Come back and watch me on a breakdown trying to figure it out. Okay, so what we just saw isn't just creepy nonsense for the sake of it. It will tie into other things. Some of them resolved, some of them not as of yet. But to get to what the hell it means, we'll have to look at the other episodes first. Think of it like the fourth episode of Mr. Robot. A lot of the pieces of the puzzle were just shoved right in our face. We just need the hindsight put them together. The second episode starts with Nora seemingly practicing the homework her and Lulu discussed earlier, meaning this video takes place not too far from the one before it. After this, Nora receives a message from Lulu asking about the folder. She reveals that it's not even there anymore and that to her,
that's enough.
what this video contained is being repressed, or we were able to see something more. Lulu decides to link Nora to a website she's made. Opening it reveals a giant site with walls of text about labyrinths, different kinds of them, and a lovely little David Bowie to watch over you while you read. It's a lot. It covers paradoxes and gets really fucking deep. I won't read it all to you, as that just wastes time, but it will become relevant again. After being asked what she thinks, Nora says she'll read about it later. They chat for a bit longer and eventually go their separate ways. Nora then decides to open what looks like a web portal to a bunch of different games and activities, running on an application called 2D Universe. This in turn installs a game called City Folks 2D. Nora creates a character and we're thrown into the game. We see the player character, who I'll just call Nora, on a train journey to a place called Albanova. We then see a house and a tree. The house is selected, and upon clicking it, the game transitions to a full-blown RPG Maker-esque style with fully 3D rendered areas and characters. The house has 4 rooms and a staircase. 3 of the rooms contain a distorted, off-putting character who Nora must interact with. The first one being Eva.
Haven't you ever wished you had somebody else to play around with? You might like it. Then get used to it. Yeah, well, in a few months we're all gonna get used to somebody new.
Nora moves on to the next character, a man wrapped in bandages.
The noise will come soon. There's only one floor left. Who do you think is to blame? Please don't hit me.
This phrase is repeated in the video's description. Nora interacts with the TV and sees a compilation of clips from the stage play featuring a person in bandages being beaten and a man exclaiming something whilst wearing a French flag. I tried very hard to find what this play is and where it came from, but I wasn't able to track it down. If you know what this is from the few seconds of screen time, good for you, you're a big fucking nerd. Finally, Nora makes her way over to the kitchen where she talks to Paul.
How's the allergies with Batman? You managed to escape, didn't you?
What? 19 levels.
Dining room. Nora then interacts with the window, showing us a view outside. It's dark, it's snowing, and there's footsteps leading into the darkness.
There are steps outside. I should go and check.
Also, side note, I only just noticed while writing this part that during the segment, a low opacity PNG of a creepy girl just appears on the side of the screen, stares at you for a bit, and then just leaves. Nora heads out the way she came in and selects the tree.
Well, I guess I gotta make a new pickaxe.
Dilapidated shack and some text.
What is one last soul you pull the trigger? There goes my head. Please, Jesus, watch over me.
And then a body, soaked in blood within the woods. Nora attempts to return to the house, but is unable to. The area looking as if it's unready for her return. We're told we should wait, and eventually the house returns to its original look. Nora heads inside to find the place empty. Everyone is gone. Interacting with the TV again gives us another flip show of stage play, and in turn more footage of a bandaged person being beaten. Nora then interacts with the bookshelf in the dining area.
See how good these copper pickaxes are.
Conceived by psychologist Mary Ainsworth in the 1970s. Its purpose being to observe attachment in small children. The experiment involves a mother and child entering a room, a stranger is introduced, and they break apart the group and reunite it in different stages throughout. Also, side note, the website I initially got this info from has the most horrifying diagram depicting the experiment that I have ever seen, and also features a YouTube video with a fully AI-generated woman explaining the stages of the experiment. So, fuck simply psychology for that one. All my hobbies hate simply psychology. Instead, check out attachment, exploration, separation, illustrated by the behavior of 1-year-old in a strange situation to read it directly from the horse's mouth. After this, the player character blinks out of existence, reappearing into a black void. We hear 2 doors open, the game shuts itself off, and Nora is thanked for playing. This ends video 2. So, just to run down what we have so far. Nora is seemingly a young girl with a friend known as Lulu. Nora uses a self-proclaimed old PC she can't afford to replace, running a bizarre operating system that shows her things she has no memory of. Nora is experiencing what could be memories from other people through her dreams, and she's playing a game on her PC.
Oh, I know where I recognize the name from. It's the Dragon Maid girl, the one who is incredibly short with giant
Video 3 begins with City
fat
Folks
sacks.
displays thresholded footage of someone
Yeah, that's a good way to call it.
Very reminiscent of the old Slender series Tribe 12, and that's how that effect was achieved. And similarities in there for a while. And after reaching the top, we come across some sort of family gathering. We have Martha, Honey, George, Nick, and Darren.
Ah, damn it, this is slow.
They're just talking about you. Your father was born together, as usual.
Please, honey, don't encourage them. Of course, we'll also say hello to our daughter then.
Our son.
Daughter?
He is a beautiful boy.
This is getting pathetic. You two are crazy. Invite strangers to your stupid little game.
Don't call him crazy in front of their son.
Daughter, honey, stop it. We are leaving now.
Hello, son.
Stop it.
Hello, son. Hello, hello, hello. He's a boy. He is a boy.
Jesus Christ. Okay, whatever you want. Hello, that daughter who is totally not here.
He's a boy. He's a boy. A beautiful, healthy boy. The day's birthday. He was born today. What?
Do you remember how to play a blue card?
You're scaring me.
Honey, they can't hurt anyone who doesn't exist.
After After witnessing the most functional, loving family unit of all time, Nora decides to click on the other one, causing them to change into this strange, distorted figure towering over everyone else.
You should go now.
Not wishing to say her welcome, Nora decides to leave the house, but as she makes her way down, the tall figure follows behind. The game then completely changes shape yet again. City Folks 2D has gone 3D. Bitch. Wandering around in the woods outside of the house, Nora comes across a sign with writing that's too difficult to make out due to the video quality, and a red set of stage curtains. Within these, there are 2 floating heads, one obscured standing on a podium, and one large, red, and imposing. Nora decides to have a chat with them both.
I imagine you are one of so many. Having coordinated so many mediocre individuals is utterly depressing. Let's see what you have.
Nora has nothing.
Such a waste of time. Stay away.
Just like in the last video, a piece of dialogue matches the description. Nora then tries going past them to a door, but the closer she gets to it, the more distorted the game world becomes. This could be the rundown track for video 2, seems around the same distance away, and we know what that led to. Unable to proceed, she heads in the other direction, and right as progress is about to be made, Lulu decides to ring, saying she's on her way to study with Nora, and that she should get ready. Pretty convenient timing on that one. While she waits for Lulu to arrive, Nora decides to browse the web and searches using Megistone, I'm guessing a standard for Google in this universe. She searches up a best friends quiz, and just like City Folks 2D, this seems far more personalized than your average bullshit internet quiz. What starts out as innocuous enough questions like their favorite video game turns into, what do you think of them? They are what I would like to repeat. They are my shadow, always beside me. They are the mirror of my image, and the option Nora picks, they always know what's in my mind. The last question is too big a nickname. We're given the catchy answers of the other, the architect, the outsider, and the best. Nora goes with the best, and huzzah, Lulu and Nora are best friends. The screen cuts out, and when we return, it's to a YouTube video explaining the inner workings of
Phylum
a group of sea and freshwater creatures who symbiotically function as a colony. The research I do for this video is more than a fucking degree. The video explains in its brief snippet how the creatures function in purpose and the relationship between the colony itself and the individual.
The relationship between the colony and the individual is not equal. Without the colony, the individual dies. Without the individual, the colony can survive. The presence of so many interdependent individuals in a single organism that shares similar properties is called a superorganism, or super individual.
Nora closes the video and attempts to return to her homework, not making it far before the video begins to distort and corrupt itself, cutting out entirely. We're left in darkness for 1 full minute before we're shown this. A series of pictures taken from security cameras showing the Geb operating system functioning on dozens and dozens of machines all over the nation, all interconnected and all under surveillance, until the last image. All the computers are off, with only one remaining. This ends video 3, and with it I think we have enough to explore the first pillar of the story. So, here's my theory. Geb OS is much more than a Windows-style operating system. Geb operates as a neural network. Seemingly introduced in the 90s and early 2000s by the company Megistone, somehow, everyone who used the OS was connected to it in a much deeper way than just USB cables. The collective user base of Geb acted as a colony, all connected together under a digital superorganism. This is represented by the fleets of computers, all connected together for seemingly every purpose and explained by the YouTube video Nora's watching for her zoology test. Going back to the collage nonsense from the first episode, we're shown a CAT scan of a brain and Miyazaki from a clip of him calling something an insult to life itself, and in video 2, the description from the Labyrinth website described labyrinths as mental structures, showcasing one type of labyrinth, the par excellence, as a network. Somehow, the OS manages to hook up to the brain itself, allowing seamless interaction and integration with the user's thoughts, allowing users to communicate effortlessly. The only thing is, Geb has gone out of style. Nora may be one of the only users of Geb left, stuck with it on her old PC that she can't afford to replace. And what happens when you take an old outdated brain interface and operating system and combine it with someone whose mind is able to perceive the memories of others and seemingly act in a way other minds can't? Maybe the games and activities you see are far more personal than originally intended, visually interpreting dreams and events linked to your own past and the past of others. But we'll get to that one in a bit. Every copy of Geb 64 is personal. Video 4 opens with Nora playing a game on a Game Boy that isn't a Game Boy on Windows that isn't Windows. She generates a local LAN code, something typically used when playing local multiplayer games on a PC, and in comes Lulu. She must have come over after all. Once again placing this video very shortly after the one before it. They head out on the tune, and whilst Lulu heads to the supermarket to finish side quest, Nora gets sucked into talking with Bob, a living potato-looking thing who is running a small stall off to the side of the bigger shop. Bob asks if Nora would like to see the future, offering to sell her future visions, and after having the price down from 20 grand, fuck off.
Seriously.
21 for a measly 7, Nora is given a potion, transporting into some kind of dreamscape. The future vision is a land shrouded in blue screens and lit with the same tall figure that was stalking Nora in the last video. After floating through this broken realm, Nora comes across a large scrap of paper with what looks to be a prophecy. In a field of grass, near the end, if you'll raise your eyes, you'll meet the Great Mother in the sky. We're taken out of this vision for the future, and Nora is chastised by Lulu for doing side quests without her. She asks if Nora still wants to go on a walk, and the screen transitions to them on a hill, gazing over the stars in a nearby city. They chat for a while. Nora asks Lulu where her father is. Lulu responds with a grim realization.
Oh, he died before I was born. He didn't want to be a child of this world. I don't think too much about it. Sometimes I wonder, what were his last thoughts as he pulled the trigger?
Oh, it's becoming night.
More than just her parents' memories. Lulu then asks Nora her own question. What is your biggest fear?
I think it's the realization that we don't know how our universe works. Sometimes I have the impression that something terrible could just suddenly happen. If you're in a closed system, what's out there will forever be a mystery.
Lulu gets a call from her mum, prompting her to leave. Nora says they should hang out again sometime, and Lulu promises to. The screen cuts to black, then fading into a rendered traditional Japanese home, sat in an awfully relaxing field. The camera slowly moves around the room while audio plays of the distressed woman on the phone. It's difficult to fully make out what's being said, but I'll try my best to transcribe it. And with that, video 4 is ended. So at this point, it's clear that both Nora and Lulu are struggling with underlying trauma and unresolved conflict, possibly using Geb OS as a way to escape their problems and even repress the memories they don't wish to have. But with Nora's dreams bleeding into the network, it can't be escaped for long. Let's see how things continue to get worse. Video 5 opens with Nora using the Geb media player to shuffle through photos of herself and Lulu, eventually coming across a photo with a third friend. Nora hangs on this picture for a moment and then comes across a photo of a drawing, labeling 3 coloured stick figures as Nora, Lulu, and me. Nora sends a photo of the 3 to Lulu, asking if she knows anything, as Nora can't remember even knowing this person. After finding out neither of them know, the conversation takes a change in direction.
Dude, you're acting weirdly. If you don't recall, why would I? I know I'm acting weird, but so are you. How? Why didn't you tell me when I opened up about my fears, about all the things you've written on your website? What are you talking about? I read it yesterday. It's everything I've talked about. I thought it was weird the first time you said I would read it better later. Did I send you the right link?
Nora clicks the freshly sent link and is taken to a site which consists of a small game where you walk a character through a labyrinth, and that's it. Well, besides this strange image with an unknown purpose. Whatever that site was before, the one with pages upon pages of detail heavily similar to Nora's deepest fears, Lulu says she has nothing to do with it, even though the link was exactly the same as the one before it. After receiving an apology from her, Lulu starts going on about Nora's sleep schedule, saying she keeps falling asleep and has been getting frequently scared over the dumbest shit.
Do you still get those weird dreams? Yeah, they're like a continuation of what I was doing. Sometimes I struggle to even tell them apart from reality. You know, if you need anything, I'm here. But not now, indeed.
The screen cuts out, and when we come back in, Nora's viewing a site called Q&A from Outer Space. Specifically, a post about BSBs and the difference between them and BBs. What these two things are is pretty unclear. It seems to be some form of personality types, akin to Type A and B personalities, which are actual things, but BBs and BSBs seem to only exist in the context of the series itself. Scrolling down the post, we see one user making a custom diagram attempting to visualize BBs, BSBs, and their relations to things, from the author to the public to everything. The replies to this are about as baffled as we are. As out of the blue, random and incomprehensible as this may seem at first glance, it does actually link back to something all the way in video 1, during the flashes of black and white imagery. One of those images, a series of words in Italian, when translated, actually equates to the diagram in this video. Diagram 1 describes the author, which is equal to esecutor, which translates to either executor or performer. This leads to musical idea with an absence of notation. This leads to oggetto sonoro, which from what I can gather from Google Translate and Wikipedia, is a concept formed by French composer Pierre Schaeffer, which indicates the perception of any sound as an object in its own right, which can be analysed independently of its cause. This goes to a recipient, then going back to the sonoro. Diagram 2 shows the BSB sandwich, with the BB and everyone above it, and the public and the author below it. There are more things laid out, but due to the poor quality, it's impossible to read. So what the fuck does any of this mean? What is this? I think this is further hinting towards the media in GetOS being personalised to the users through the neural network. Take the initial post about BSBs, talking about them like some cool new release from a tech company, and the references to the author, recipient, and sound as an object in its own right. This is all literal. A piece of media for Get, be it a game for example, is created by the author. It lacks cohesion and absence of notation as it's formed by the recipient, personalising the experience for them by taking information from their dreams and memories, and is then returned back to the author, creating the final product. The diagram in video 5 is simply a botched recreation of the same concept laid out in Italian. I really hope that makes sense. I had to rewrite that like 5 times. After seeing this image, Nora's computer lets her know that the site she's on is dodgy shit and she needs to get off it before the cyberpolice backtrace it. After closing the window, there's a notification from Cityfolk 2D. Upon opening it, Nora's placed in the interior of a stone castle-like structure. There's a small room with a mirror, 2 doors, a window, and a tall, strange blue figure. The first thing Nora does is peek through the window, prompting us to see the view inside.
There's a body on the ground. You don't miss the feel of skin.
Nora then interacts with the first door.
They can't see you.
She looks in the mirror, but other than a reflection, nothing happens. Nora enters the second door and is taken to a room floating within a black void with 3 stone podiums. The first one summoning a floating mouth who asks us to talk, and then dumps what is basically a TED talk on us.
Hey, how we doing? Today, I'll ask you a question. Have you ever heard of the Rashomon effect? Let's imagine an event, a traumatic event. Did you know that when we store certain type of data, our personal biases change our memories? For example, if we were a little crazy like our memory will tend to glorify our actions. When we don't have certain data, for example, events that are not objectively verifiable, how should we interpret them? Embracing ambiguity is the only possible answer. Not only are we subjective, not only do we have to fight against ourselves, but also our perceptions are limited. Remember, you truly exist only if you acknowledge yourself.
The Rashomon effect is actually a real thing, the phenomenon of the unreliability of eyewitnesses, and it's based off of the 1950 Japanese film Rashomon, about 4 eyewitnesses giving conflicting stories about a samurai who was murdered in the forest, which in itself is based off the short story In a Grove, which is contained within this book. I happened to buy about 3 weeks before stumbling across the series, and I thought that was neat. We then move on to Podium 2, a giant floating eyeball who asks us to see. We are shown an entirely new 3D environment featuring a new model for the player character, interacting with us as if we're separate from them.
Hey there, don't be shy, come here.
They invite us to play a game. All we have to do is find the letters. Nora doesn't do so well. We're then given a strange anecdote from the player.
I remind you that being Get is there for a reason. Take care of the prison. It's not all sunshine and chatter like here.
We return to the void to interact with the third and final pillar, a disembodied ear. Nora is asked if she would like to hear, and the screen fades to black. Footsteps are heard, then followed by a loud as fuck gunshot that, on my first viewing, made my soul leave my body while finally shoots. More footsteps, which sound closer to running. The steps seem to head outside before becoming echoing.
You have collected rotten skin. Would you like to wear it now or later?
Nora seemingly tries to select later, but this causes the game to freak out before returning to the 3 pillars. Nora leaves and makes her way to the mirror, her reflection being that of the tall creature we've seen so many glimpses of.
I hate this. Even just the sight of it's unbearable for me. I can feel every vein, every blink of my eye. It can't be like this for eternity.
She's then joined by the, until now, stationary blue figure.
What are you doing here? Rebecca, I'm hideous. This world is hideous. Darling, growing up is learning to love this world into the born with. What if I can't do it? I know you will. And if you can't, we'll come up with something else. Everything changes. You will too.
Everything stays, but it still changes. Ever so slightly, daily and nightly. In little ways.
So we have a new character introduced and a whole lot of concepts dropped.
God, I feel sick.
The dialogue reads motherly, parental. However, I believe that this is the third friend, the one in purple that we've seen hints at that neither Nora nor Lulu can recall ever knowing. Nora seems to find comfort in her presence and reassurance.
Let's go in the garden. You'll find something waiting right there where you left it. And upside down.
Oh no, I have spent days trying to crack this shit. I tried cross-referencing it with the grid of letters shown during the fully 3D segment. Nothing. I tried crossing that with the series of numbers that were shown in the image at the end of Lulu's labyrinth. Trying every possible combination of the two. Nothing. I realized the blacked out letters are in the shape of a set of lips, so I thought the answer might be the section with the floating pair of lips. There's a portion that's sped up, so I slowed it down in the editing, and it's still complete gibberish to me, so that's a no-go. I tried counting the duplications, the stutters during this bit. After that, I tried Polybius Q, numerous ciphers, but I just couldn't crack it. This stupid cat's smug face has been staring at me for God knows how long at this point, tormenting me, goading me to solve this riddle. And I give up. I have no idea if this is something that's even meant to be solved, or if we even have the information available to solve it yet. Who knows, maybe episode 9 or 10 will have the key to put this link together, but for now, I'm at a loss. If I keep trying and failing to put my pea-sized brains to test to solve this video is never gonna get done. So instead, I'm making this an open call. Everyone watching this that is smarter than me, so everyone, I beg of you to try and solve this and send me the results either in the comments or on social media or whatever. If we can solve this, I will be forever grateful to you. You know, let's make a JPEG. But even then, if it's like a JPEG of a cool looking dog, I'll talk about it. Let's get on to video 6 and finally put this thing to bed as it is so far. Video 6 begins once again at Nora's desktop. There's a sleepy-ass dog and the sphere-head podium guy from Video 3. Before we know it, we transition between several different desktops, one with a labyrinth game open, leading us to think that this is Lulu's Geb, a pink desktop from an unknown user, and a desktop shrouded in darkness. We cut to black and we return to Nora playing City Folks. She's in another area of the castle. There's 2 posters, a door, and a desk with a computer. Going over to the desk, we see it close up. There's several books surrounding a monitor and a box on the far end. When interacting with the computer, it flickers the light and displays a video of an egg hatching before shutting itself off. When interacting with the box, Nora has a look inside, only to find a strange green homunculus creature in a plaid shirt quivering in place like some freakish mix of
Homunculus?
The creature asks for help, wanting Nora to bring him back. You see, Frog Guy here has lost his brother who goes by UwU, a shy rabbit all alone. The creature then names Nora, begging her to find him.
Rabbit
reveals the name of the creature to be Donald, and Nora heads out through the door with a quest to find UwU. The game transitions to a 2D side-scroller perspective in a brand new area, one that looks far more inviting than the castle walls from earlier. Nora walks for a bit before being joined by this hellish fishbone skeleton of seaman abomination who is that's just a really cool design. Look at this, so hard. Nora asks the fish who is named Alba about finding UwU. Alba responds by saying it's a bad business, as a lot of rabbits have been disappearing lately and that they're not the only ones, revealing that 2 chimpanzees have also gone missing.
We found one 6 months later after a radiator, not far from the house you there.
The camera pans over to this house, which in my mind strikes a resemblance to that damn dilapidated shack from Video 2, although I may be trying to tie ends that just don't go together. After further conversation between Nora, Alba, and a giant black and white head called Clever Hans, which doesn't really go anywhere, Nora decides it's up to her to solve this mystery and heads inside the house. The house is quiet, old, and decrepit. The sound that does play is a whirring, high-pitched monotone. There's a chain on the floor in front of a large wall radiator and 2 open doors.
Oh my god, what did you create?
Nora explores, showing us more of the rotten interior. The next room features several photos stuck to a wall.
How did you expect I would survive this? The guilt is gnawing away at my skin. I would prefer not to experience what you did.
We're shown the end of the house, and we find UwU trapped in the center of a table. Only their head is visible. It's not until they speak that we can see the head is not removed from the body. They have one thing to say to us. We hear a rusted door open. Someone knows we're here and they're making their way over to us. Nora backs up and out of the house in a panic, blindly flashing through the room to already seen as quick as she can before we're outside again. After making it out to the now moonlit street, Nora heads back to the castle, but the area that loads in is a strange, abstract figment seemingly floating in the sky. There's a staircase leading down into nothing, and upon entering it, the game fades into a strange labyrinth of dirty walls and checkerboard floors. As Nora heads through it, the areas become reminiscent of the brief blips of different desktops we saw at the beginning of the video, implying that the neural connection in this game allows players to come across the same places. It's all very dreamlike, and I love the vibe of it. One of the rooms, seemingly deep into the labyrinth, looks remarkably like the house from the beginning of all of this, even featuring Nick from Video 3 standing in the doorway. At the deepest level, seemingly a basement, Nora walks up to a giant PC, interacting with it and triggering a new game within the game. Reassemble the character. In this very simple game, the player is tasked with recreating faces from their memory. The first level is our dog, which Nora recreates with ease because who could ever forget this little guy? The second is to recreate her father, which again she manages, although with a little more effort. Finally, she's asked to recreate her best friend, and Nora can't do it. Everything closes, and 20 seconds later, we're shown a vignette of Nora and Lulu sitting by a swing set at night having a conversation. Nora talks about her fears, how being 20 isn't what she thought it would be, that she feels that she's not living the right way.
I still live with my parents, college isn't what I imagined, but everyone mistakes me for a 14-year-old.
At first, Lulu tries comforting her, waving away her troubles is not too bad, but the conversation
Alrighty.
But you imagine yourself being no. I thought I would get magically smarter and taller. Is that so important? This isn't about knowledge at all, am I right? This is always about you. You don't really care about knowing everything. You want to believe that you're better than others. Thinking it would have given you intrinsic value, a deeper connection with your surroundings. Failure is the best thing that could happen to you in your stupid selfishness. What is it? Does your private God no longer speak to you? Why are you doing this to me? Because I know you think so too.
This ends Video 6.
People need to take a break.
For today's snack time, I'm going to be consuming something that my brother brought back from America. SpongeBob SquarePants craft macaroni and cheese. I'm not an American.
SpongeBob SquarePants.
Who knows? Maybe
SpongeBob SquarePants.
The specifications on the box. It's time to sit down and eat it. I'm also going to be washing it down with a nice peach iced tea beverage which I purchased from shop. Overall, it was pretty good, but it's got nothing on the British delicacy apple crumb scrimbies. Am I right, fellas? So, with everything we've seen now being up to date as of the writing of this, I think we can try putting together my own theory of Nora's life and everyone's predicament.
Back in the 90s.
So from what we can gather, there are 3 main characters to this series. Nora, our point of view, Lulu, professed best friend, and a third, as of now, unnamed friend. My theory is that originally it was just Nora and the third friend, who I'll refer to as Rebecca for now. They were both the original best friend duo twinsies growing up together and all that jazz. Then, at some point, something happened to Rebecca. We don't know what for certain, but from what we glimpsed in Video 6, if these 2 things are linked, it wasn't pretty. Now, for the amount of involvement Nora had in Rebecca's fate, it's uncertain. The game hints an amount of direct causation, but as the floating lips told us, our biases can affect our memories of traumatic events, and with Nora's tendency to float between dreams and reality, making the narrative we're shown not entirely reliable, it's unsure what truly happened and what Nora's involvement was. What we do know is whatever happened, it's wrapped Nora with guilt, so the game spitting that back at her as a form of blame is not all too surprising. So, with Rebecca out of the picture, Nora continues growing up alone in a highly dysfunctional family, a family that resents her for something out of her control. You see, I think Nora is trans.
Alright.
This part of the theory is going to get a bit murky. I want to put this out there now, plain as day, that this is my theory and not the word of the creators. It is simply how I personally interpreted it, and I don't know, I might be a little bit biased. You know, the last thing I want to come across as is one of those video essay people that just shoves in some completely unrelated narrative into a video, so I will try to substantiate what I'm saying. But from what I saw in the series, the consistent mentions of Nora's warped view of herself, the antagonizing word from what is implied to be her family, constantly switching genders when referring to her, the phrases throughout, like Eva in Video 2 saying in a few months we're all going to get used to somebody new. I viewed it all as pointing towards Nora being a trans character. I think that the person curled up on the floor in Video 3 is supposed to be Nora, due to the reflection of herself in Video 5 being the same tall creature that this turns into and that stalks her throughout the series, but she's closed off to everyone else, ashamed of herself and her image. This is my timeline for events. After the passing of her best friend Rebecca, Nora heads to college to make something of herself, connecting or maybe reconnecting with her friend Lulu, who seems to study at the same place herself. Eventually, it becomes too much for Nora. The stress of student life in combination with her continuing dream ambitions causing her derealization, and after a while, she's sent back home, back to her dysfunctional and maybe even abusive home life. And I don't think she can exactly leave. Due to her implied mental health struggles, it's apparent that she may be on some form of watch. Back in video 2, when interacting with Paul, she says, "You managed to escape, didn't you? I told you the world was a dangerous place." So, unable to leave, Nora spends all her time at home, where she recluses even more, constantly downstairs in the basement, hooked up to the neural network, making herself worse and her visions more intertwined with reality until she struggles with telling two apart, tormented by her past and the past of her only remaining friend, Lulu. We know from Nora's dreams that Lulu has a troubled past of her own, and for some reason, she's always there whenever things start to unravel. Whenever Nora is about to make progress, Lulu shows up. And while she claims to be Nora's friend and the two clearly have history, she consistently puts Nora down, exposing her to her deepest fears and fucking with her head, reinforcing repression of these difficult memories. Going back to the best friend quiz, I think it's no coincidence that Nora uses the answer, "She always knows what's in my head." Either Lulu is just a really shit friend, or she has a reason to maintain Nora's repression of events and continual denial, feeding into the narratives of rejecting history.
Alright, give me a second, I'll BRB.
Video 2, like I hinted at, Lulu may
oh boy. Back in the 90s. Alrighty, I'm back. Minecraft.
And that is Geb. A series that sprung out of nowhere, completely took me by surprise, and blew me away with its aesthetics and fragmented storytelling. It really reminds me of like a tech dystopian version of Last Night in Soho, perfectly capturing the inner anxieties of a 2000s child who spent far too much time on the early internet. It's not perfect by any means. The sometimes slightly dodgy English and very unhuman-like computer mouse is a bit immersion breaking, but with the framing device of dreams leading into reality, it's easy to incorporate those things as intentional effects, even if they're almost definitely not. There's a few odds and ends. There's things that we just don't have enough info on to come to a concrete answer for, like the Bandage Man's mentions of the noise, a good chunk of the flashes in video 1, and what the fuck these things are, but that's the fun of all this. The series is still ongoing, and who knows how many videos we'll get, but until then, embracing ambiguity is the only possible answer. So go on down to Geb's channel and check out any new videos that might be coming down the pipeline. It's good stuff, and it's gone unrecognized for way too long.
Alright, that was another very good video essay, I must say. Alrighty. Peter. I'm good. A little chunk of hope. Keeps me going every day. Going every day. Be not afraid. Ooh, Minecraft. Alright, I think I'm gonna watch. Where is it? Be not afraid. Not afraid, my child.
It is often said that the root of all fear is the unknown, the dark, the other, the hidden. With that often comes the advice to hide your monsters. The horror disappears once you can get a good look at the threat. But that wisdom, like all things, is not necessarily universal. The horror, the unknown, doesn't always end with just seeing. Just because we're looking at it doesn't mean we can understand it. Call it what you like, the cosmic, the Lovecraftian, the eldritch. There's a certain type of horror that inspires more than just fear. It inspires awe, wonder, reverence, in addition to terror and dread. Other times, it simply inspires a kind of anxious confusion. When we look at something, some monster or entity or environment, and though the reflections of the light are hitting our eyes, we simply cannot comprehend it. It is too strange, too alien for us to fathom, to fully understand. All that we know is we no longer feel at ease. We no longer feel we are in the presence of something comfortable or familiar, and suddenly begin to think we would have much preferred this thing stay hidden in the shadows. Today, we're returning to the world of digital horror to explore a series of projects which, in one way or another, develop and employ this unusual form of incomprehensible horror, taking a deep dive into the dream of the atmospheric planes of people still live here, and the cryptic entities within Snapshot Null. Join me as we explore a horror that extends beyond fear, and be not afraid.
Be not afraid, my child.
This past February, multimedia artist Sobog posted episode 1 of a new series known as Buncom. There's not really a clear narrative, especially in the beginning, so you're left mostly with a series of questions as you delve into this surreal world. So let's dive straight into that first episode. Coast. The camera floats downward into a dimly lit low-poly room. What seems to be a single green balloon floats in the air as a reverse, discomforting soundtrack plays in the background. As the camera settles, some vaguely humanoid shape half fades into view, its body made up of simple geometry, the balloon where its head would be. The room is dark, and the figure is only half opaque, meaning its exact appearance is hard to make out, and the utter oddness of it makes it difficult to get a clear read on what this thing even is. Feels like looking at a shape in the dark before your brain has fully synthesized the information, stuck in that liminal space of seeing but not understanding. And before we can look for much longer, a loud rising tone plays, and we cut away. We are now on a plain of brick, nearby to some barren trees and a well. The title card for Coast fades, and our player begins exploring this low-res environment. Judging by the graphics and player movement, this seems to be gameplay footage of some kind of old-school PC game. Atmospheric guitar plays as the character wanders this plane, the low render distance making objects appear as if they're growing out of the thin air as they approach. The player's movements are slightly awkward and unusual as they clip through objects and look around, sometimes sliding rapidly across the ground for seemingly no reason. Eventually, they come across these buildings, some sparse replication of a town. A few of the walls here seem to peer through into some other footage of the game, the sky and the buildings and the plane. All the while, almost indiscernible imagery keeps fading onto screen or appearing in the sky, surreal visuals adding to the sense of confusion and alienation from what it is we're looking at. Finally, the player approaches a half-sunken building on the edge of the plane, and these red dots begin showering onto the screen like raindrops, as a similarly red, mask-like face begins flickering onto the screen. The player plunges off the edge of the plane and into the abyss of the surrounding sky as a clock slowly fades into view before the video ends.
Let's keep going.
This series is definitely one that benefits immensely from watching for yourself. It has this dreamlike quality that you can't feel the full weight of from just hearing about it. From the music to the imagery to the uneasy pace and movements, despite nothing particularly scary happening, there's an undeniable sense of unease that everything is off, like a half-gone memory of a video game from when you were a kid, or a nightmare in which nothing particularly bad happens, but feels unsettling nonetheless. It's not all fear, though. There's almost a childlike feeling, seeing something you don't fully understand or comprehend, and the comments are full of other viewers sharing similar experiences and takeaways as well. While we're down here, let's take a brief look at the description. Party for bunnies, but not the coast of brick children. Again, hard to parse out exactly what any of this means, but even terms like brick children build on this vaguely familiar, nostalgic video game feeling, while still being completely inexplicable. Town. The dissonant, warping soundscape accompanied by acoustic guitar continues this episode as the player is once again on a plane. It's darker this time, the sounds more overwhelming, and the footage frequently stuttering and lagging. In the darkness, much of what the player sees is difficult to make out, with many of the objects appearing to render incorrectly. When we approach what seems to be a lamppost, we're met with a disquieting 3D character. Welcome, my name is Clifford, but you can call me Fipo. I'm looking to share 2 wishes with your new visitor. Yes or no? The player seems to select yes as Fipo backslides into the static before we seem to flicker back control of our character and the static dissipates. Suddenly, there's a scream and Fipo says, "Congratulations, help prepare dinner." Fipo's movements are unpredictable, shifting and teleporting around erratically as we wander off, and we are once again interrupted, this time by some strange 2D character. This one says nothing, but somehow the player knows how to deal with them, grabbing colorless rectangles from thin air with the cursor and maybe feeding it until it goes away. Eventually, the player stumbles into a maze-like area of rusted walls, where they find a large cylindrical object that seems to have the shape of maybe a person stretching out of it, like Han Solo in Carbonite. The player effortlessly clips through this object to find a large tree and Fipo again. "Hey buddy, you're looking creepy as hell as always." And again, after a moment, our player wanders off seemingly aimlessly before the video ends. Town is definitely the most unsettling to me. When Fipo first came on screen, it elicited an honest-to-God from me. The description of this episode reads, Episode 2, Town. When I left the coast, crows plucked away at my wrapper body cloak, sprouted with coast on the island of brick children. So we are having some recurring concepts here. There's some connective tissue. Additionally, this video uses the chapter feature on YouTube, with the first section being titled Brickdown, then when we're introduced to Fipo, changing to Welcome by Fipo, and once we click through the wall, changing to lightpaste.jpg. I'm completely unsure of what significance those have as of now, so let's see if we can get any more information in the next episode, Cotton County. We open on a PlayStation-esque menu for the game Bunny Cotton. This is perhaps the most coherent the series has been so far, though the UI is still a little strange. Along with the normal new game, load game options and quit, we get this rotating level select, picking between Coast, Town, and Cotton County. Selecting Cotton County, we load into another level. Much like the previous, the player finds themselves in a sparsely decorated brick plain. This time, though, their wandering doesn't seem so aimless, as they pull out a cryptic map or diagram marked Region 01. In the bottom left, we see some rotating piece of geometry, almost looking like a slice taken out of some piece of terrain. We're looking for something, presumably? Continuing along this row of bare shrubbery, a massive tree appears ahead, but whenever the player goes to look directly at it, something seems to pull them away, like something's forcing them to avoid it. Then we cut forward in time, the sky now colored the pink and purples of dusk. We've seemingly found that section of terrain, but instead of interacting with it, the player enters this odd purple building. Inside, there's a large table and a staircase which leads up to a much darker second floor. Once here, the player runs toward the wall, clipping out and onto the plane again, with the footage or perhaps the game itself beginning to distort. And then ending. This episode, though obviously still cryptic and strange, does seem to have a little more structure to it. We are actually seeing some kind of a video game with some kind of obscure objectives and mechanics. The description reads, Episode 3, Cotton County. Taste. Can you look into this house for taste?
Minecraft.
Looking a little different this time. A shifting mass of clashing colors. This time we have a new level option, Seasons of Change, and the player selects it. We load into yet another plane, much darker this time, with this snaking kind of character in front of us. As the player wanders past these spinning flowers and brick structures, we enter a building where we find that hovering face from the opening. Can a fly grow to see itself? 16 years left alone to watch the mountains crumble from the sky and through the town. I was made into a jar, sweet honey and kisses to lighten the old folk around. Once I removed my wings, I was placed upon a flower and grew into a fly. Children ripped and poked at my roots so I may never sprout for the elders. One night, I sent many sparks to each of the children's rooms, gifting the essence of nature's gift and power, banished from their homes for damaged function and immobile cocoons. The dialogue is a little hard to parse out upon a first read, but effectively passes on these themes of nature, stunted growth, and childhood. Next to the face, there's a note, a drawing of some kind of yellow character with the text vegetable, oven, cat, bag, cow, fiddle, though I assume it's supposed to be field. Very cool. At the bottom of the screen, we see this is marked 2 of 8.
Holy shit! Mr. Slender Man!
We leave the building and open our menu, seemingly selecting the mail tab and opening an audio file titled Petri.aac. After listening to that, we come upon a new character, what looks to be a son with a bow tie. When you exit the stairway, you will not walk, a path will be set. And suddenly, the soundscape around us has turned decidedly more eerie, celestial. We cut forward in time, now seemingly exploring some cave-like environment. Due to the low-res textures and often unusual geometry, it's often difficult to discern the nature of our surroundings in this series, or if there's some kind of real-life analog at all. Maybe this is just texture geometry. My initial thought was that it almost feels like being inside a massive skeleton, but again, it's difficult to tell.
So let's see, wonder why they kill me, I'm just mining.
Behind the bony cave, they stumble upon the sun mannequin, who seems to be speaking briefly, but the audio is so distorted, for the life of me, I cannot figure out what it says. I've done my best to EQ and isolate the sound, so if any of you want to take a crack at deciphering this, leave it in the comments. Walking to the edge of this level, the player ducks beneath the squared, seemingly skybox and falls into the black void outside. Instead of disappearing forever into the inky abyss, we're teleported back, now seemingly with the ability to fly and no-clip around. And as the player zips and zooms around this confusing landscape, a loud, distorted vocal sound slowly fades in over everything until the video ends.
Alright, my pickaxe is about to die. Let's go get another pickaxe.
Surprisingly coherent message. Last week, Marcus removed 6 levels from the encode map. He's been telling me there have been letters in varying order replacing code from the skybox textures. It's not that big of a deal, as I keep records on each environment bugs. I don't know why he hasn't brought them up before. So we're beginning to get some kind of a story here about strange bugs being found during the development of a video game, presumably BunnyCon. Now, on its own, this text could perhaps be dismissed as a non sequitur, more out-of-context oddness to add to the confused feeling of the series thus far. But the description of this video seems to reinforce the narrative these captions seem to be spinning. During the 8 months of development on BunnyCon, creator Minecwaft UwU came in to help port the new engine onto a Pi model. Map 4, record play 340, beta 0.3.4, May 3rd, 1999. Water was ruined, audio cracking distance, 19 hours left. So there is some kind of development going on with BunnyCon. There is someone named Marcus, and though a little out of context, the description plus the captions gives us a good amount of information. This BunnyCon appears to be a late 90s video game developed in part by creator Marcus, aka Minecwaft UwU, and the footage we're seeing in this video seems to be of beta version 0.3.4. We could dive into this more, but I'll save that for later. First impression. Okay, go. We begin on what seems like a cutscene. The camera flying by some kind of tower, then a few frames of out-of-context gameplay before we are at yet another start screen, zooming past the text and into this dark hallway where we see the window face again. It seems this is the full kind of opening title sequence, and we only got a brief glimpse of the end previously.
Alrighty, let's go back.
In a dark void, controlling a spotlight. Floating and phasing around in the dark, the spotlight catches this almost clay-like morph figure as it sort of pops around before sinking almost entirely into the ground. Whether this is what the player was looking for is unclear, because the spotlight continues to sort of meander around before resting and cutting the pitch darkness. The deep rhythmic soundscape continues playing in the darkness, sounding almost like a slowed down heartbeat for almost another full minute before also fading and disappearing. Finally, nearly 2 minutes after the visuals have cut to pure blackness, we see black and white footage of an elderly woman, presumably celebrating her birthday. Then the video returns to pitch darkness for another minute or so before showing what seems to be a still image of an environment in the game. 2 buildings and a red cylinder on a dark green plane for the video ends. Just like the earlier video, this one also has closed captions, and though the message isn't encoded in the traditional sense, it is a little bit more confusing. First impression. Okay, go. Don't be obnoxious, you know it wouldn't fit for the cutscene. Why do you have to keep making such a big deal out of every single thing I say? It's only been like 10 seconds. It has not been even ever been 10 seconds, and you're just proving yourself unreliable, and I don't even Ned have nothing to say to you. Get out of my captions. In what way is what you mean hello? My first thought reading this is that the opening seems like dialogue between 2 people sitting down to play the game, discussing the cutscene at the beginning and getting into some kind of argument. But then they almost seem to break the fourth wall with the mentioning of us being in the captions, and the dialogue sort of breaks down from there. It's very interesting. The writing in the description seems similarly inscrutable. The disc uniform metal. Okay, round, up, move, out, cracker.
Alrighty, let's head to the other side.
With that, we've reached the end. Up to this point, anyway. Despite the dreamlike, sometimes seemingly nonsensical nature of this project, I think there's a core of a story to unravel here. And even more so, because of its dreamlike, surreal nature, there's a lot of unique thematic and emotional depth here. Something which feels like it gets to the root of an experience or feeling. So let's take a closer look. First things first, I love this project. It is so atmospheric and unique and genuinely scary at times. The style and technical elements are all honed in so well, from the NTSC monitor warble to the game's graphics to the accurately 90s 2000s art direction to the cacophonous yet often beautiful soundtrack. Now, it's clearly taking inspiration from some places. I couldn't help but be reminded of Osamu Sato's work, the game doing Nikki, maybe some Ina, and definitely a dose of Petscop for good measure. But it's able to so effectively be its own thing, its own bizarre,
Petscop.
whimsical experience.
Petscop Part 2 win.
I once again implore you to watch the series for yourself. It's not very long, and it is truly best experienced by watching through. With that said, let's see what kind of a story we can work out from the breadcrumbs it left us. To be fair, at least at this point in the series, BunnyCon seems fairly light on story, but I find it really interesting how it's slowly been drip-feeding these plot elements. When watching the first few episodes, I kind of assumed this was more of a disconnected art project without a traditional web series narrative, which is still totally something I'm into, but when these storytelling elements started showing up, I was really curious as to how something as avant-garde, for lack of a better term, as this was going to pan out its narrative. And to be fair, a lot of that remains to be seen. I don't expect we've seen the last of BunnyCon, but for now, what can we unravel? Sometime in the 1990s, someone named Marcus, going by the username Minecwaft UwU, created a video game called BunnyCon. At some point in this process, a team was brought in to help continue its development. I make this distinction here between Marcus and the dev team at large because the description seems to imply Minecwaft UwU is the original or head honcho behind the game creatively. It was developed over an 8-month period, though it's unclear if it was ever finished. At some point, the game engine was ported to a Pi model, the meaning of which is unclear to me and is also unclear to some of the more tech-savvy friends that I've asked, especially since Raspberry Pi boards didn't come out until 2012, but let me know in the comments if you have any idea. During this development period, strange bugs and issues began popping up, replacing assets and code, though the extent of these isn't entirely clear. But it's possible these bugs account for the sparsely populated, often seemingly glitchy nature of the game as we see it here. As far as we know, the game only ever made it to beta, so whether BunnyCon was ever released to the public remains to be seen. And that's about all we know. I would guess we'll learn more as new videos are released, but to me, the story is not the most interesting part of this series. To me, the most intriguing element is simply the experience of watching. As I watched BunnyCon, these same terms kept coming to mind, and users in the comments seem to be on the same wavelength as well. Dreamlike, childhood, a broken memory. And that's when it really started to sink in. To me, BunnyCon almost feels like the everywhere at the end of time for the computer generation, millennials, Gen Z, etc. Where the memories of the 20s through the 40s are what stick in the minds of the silent and greatest generations, and were then distorted and warped by the caretaker to create this atmospheric journey which evokes the lost or degrading memories of childhood in the past. BunnyCon creates the same effect with these experimental, almost ambient works of multimedia, artifacts of CRT monitors, lo-fi graphics creating the impression of an environment.
Alright, another pickaxe, I guess.
Characters of varying styles which all seem in some way to evoke the vibe of children's
Go get another pickaxe.
A feeling that can't be
I wish copper pickaxes were better. I don't have that much iron. I can't just be wasting it all.
Forms and shapes which you feel you should recognize but can't focus on, can't truly place. Aside from just the surreal imagery and music, the writing plays into this as well. Sentences and dialogue which don't seem to make complete sense, lacking context, but again evoke this feeling of 90s PC games and children's media. Bricktown and the Brick Children, FeePo, Lightpaste.jpg. They bring to mind old Lego games, Sesame Street and Nickelodeon shows, messing with files on a family computer. And this idea of broken childhood memories feels reinforced by the window faces dialogue about interrupted growth and children banished from their homes for damaged function and immobile cocoons. To briefly take the angle of a comparison to Petscop, I think it does something really well that Petscop did too. Create a sense that you aren't getting the full picture. Petscop intentionally left a lot of details you need to piece together the story out of what we see in the series, leaving the viewer feeling confused and lost within the on-screen events. Bunny Cotton, in some ways, feels like it's taking that to the next level. It's difficult to comprehend the environment and events themselves. There's this recurring feeling of, what am I looking at here? It's difficult to explain. You kind of just have to experience it. One example might be the object from Cotton County. It's like, yeah, I think that's maybe some piece of the map, a tunnel. I don't know. It's just a thing. Or in general, there's the use of these shapes and surreal overlays you just barely can't wrap your head around. And these feelings of unease that Bunny Cotton is able to conjure is the exact type of unsettling, esoteric discomfort and fear we're going to be exploring with all of these series. Speaking of, let's step away from the bizarre world of Bunny Cotton and towards something a little more familiar.
Minecraft. I can't believe it. I'm playing Minecraft.
There's actually an exclusive 20+ minute video about FNAF and Amnesia the Bunker up there right now, so if you're interested in that, hell. Minecraft web series have become a staple of not just these digital horror videos I make, but the entire internet horror sphere in general. And there's one series which popped into existence in 2020, which would grow a captivated audience, build out a unique mystery, influence and inspire the entire Minecraft web series genre, and then only a month later, disappear completely. Welcome to Snapshot Null. -3W21A. We begin with a bird's eye, almost spectator view of a village at night, but something's not quite right. The villagers float in the air, high above the village, and much of the architecture has been replaced with these pulsing red blocks. Then we see our player's point of view. Worth noting here, this player has a skin with a red shirt and black pants. We're not always seeing the same perspective throughout these videos, so it's important to point out when certain characters have recognizable traits. They stand in front of a few signs just outside the village. Don't climb the tower. Stay away. March 17th, 2020. Seaweed is good. January 21st, 2020. Yup. Dated signs like these are fairly common in Minecraft servers when players want to essentially tag that they've been here. And though some of these seem innocuous, some of the warnings seem pretty ominous. As they continue to explore further into the village, the player is startled by something strange. The door to one of the houses is opening and closing rapidly on its own, and the same thing happens with a bell later on. There's something seriously strange going on here. Scattered throughout this unusual village, we find even more signs left by even more players. I thought this was a single-player world. The archaic was here. Boring village, LOL. Bacon Flag, July 11th, 2019. Stella, May 29th, 2019. No one. I know. Nope. March 27th, 2020. With these messages, we can begin to piece together what's going on here. It seems players are able to stumble upon this village in what they think are their very own single-player worlds, and are somehow connected to the other players, able to see at least what they've left behind. Seemingly, this player in the red shirt is stumbling upon this for the first time in their own world. When the player mines out a piece of this strange red block, we can see that its item name is Fractured Mist. Entering into the village church, the bell sounds stop and start sporadically, and the player begins behaving oddly. They stop, look at the ground, and stand still, only moving a little bit to switch items in their hotbar, and then the video ends. Alright, let's take a step back. The first thing I should note is that the only reason we have these videos available after the channel's deletion is because of a community-created Snapshot Null archive channel. There's also a good video by Crescendex covering the series, which pulls info from the Reddit and Discord communities too, which give even more information. So shout out to all of the archiving efforts and previous community work that makes experiencing this series still possible. If you're curious, at least according to a brief interview with the creator of Snapshot Null from Crescendex, the creator deleted the channel because they were unhappy with the series and some of the negative responses at the time, but have since given the A-OK to make analysis and expressed some amount of regret for deleting. Personally, I think Snapshot Null is doing some super interesting stuff, so I'm glad the creator is still open to people talking about it and that the community has done such a good job archiving. With that said, I should also mention the title of this video and all the uploads from Snapshot Null. This particular video is titled -3W21A, the formatting of which should be familiar to those of you who play Minecraft. This is the naming conventions of Minecraft snapshot versions, playable releases of Minecraft versions that are still being developed. These names correspond to the dates, the week and year of its release, but as you'll notice, none of these titles have a date that could even exist. They're all negative numbers, impossible, non-existent versions of the game. Finally, I should also note that there is some extra information we would have been able to find in the original upload's tags metadata, which we can still track down via Reddit posts from the time. Shout out Bandito Bio. For this video, there were a few of special note, formatted like a Minecraft update changelog, added Fractured Mist, Union PTL, removed Herobrine. As to what the Fractured Mist block's function is or what Union PTL means is unclear at the moment, and removed Herobrine is clearly just a reference to the classic in-joke. With all of that extra info, let's move on to episode 2. -17W10A. For a brief few frames at the very beginning of this video, we see a chest filled with snowballs and rods. Though not necessarily clear at first, this is an encoded message. Reading these as the ones and zeros of a binary text, we can get the word archaic, which is a familiar name. From here, we have perhaps the most compressed Minecraft gameplay of all time, a player exploring their abandoned mineshaft. There's nothing unusual at first, until a bit of strange ambience begins to play, and the player comes across Brixgoa. What is Brixgoa? It's not really clear. It's a series of intersecting asymmetric rods and shapes, an odd piece of geometry just floating in the air. It has a name tag marking it Brixgoa, but is otherwise completely uninteractable. And then it begins to talk. Why are these data about time values so accurate? 5. Why is the data related to geometry so useful? It continues speaking in this broken jargon, which seem entirely meaningless in the construction of its sentences. And then another voice chimes in, one that Brixgoa seemingly ignores, one that seems like it's talking to the player. Red text, like an error message straight from the game. Destroy it. Brixgoa keeps talking. In fact, all substances are magnetically levitated at their surface because of the peculiar magnetizing effects of their boundary conditions. I don't understand. Who am I? What do I want? Why am I here? If I don't understand anything, then this is a waste of my time and energy. Why am I having this conversation with you after having just spent 20 minutes talking to the host? And at the mention of this host, the red text writes, "Don't mention him. Kill it now." Sorry, I have to go. And Brixgoa dies and disappears. And only moments later, the player follows suit, dying to the message, "Pro Bowser fell out of the world." At the very end of the video, we can hear faint Morse code, which spells out, "Thank you. I'll let the host know." Who is this host? This might be my favorite episode of the entire series. I love how completely weird it is. If I were to think of the phrase anomaly in a video game, this is like the platonic ideal of one. It's not traditionally scary, instead just so weird and baffling that it creates that odd sense of unease from a purely what is even going on perspective. Not to mention the compressed nature of the video makes it even harder to make out what's going on. Like your eyes are having a hard time adjusting to the dark. And it stands out as feeling more believable and therefore more affecting because it's so weird. There's no trope or frame of reference to latch onto as you're looking at this abstract shape speak in inscrutable mathematical idiom. It feels like if math was God, this would be one of its biblically accurate angels. Anyway, the tags here are also fairly interesting. Added Brixgoa, removed Hero Ryan. Keep quiet, or the host will know about this. So the big question continues to be, who is the host? And who is adding all this strange stuff to these versions of the game? In order to find out, we can only keep watching. -7W7A. This video starts out fairly normally. Pretty normal Minecraft gameplay. A player named JavaKnight67. They've set up shop with their wolf in a village, which seems fairly normal. The only thing really of note is that they seem to be pretty young, not appearing particularly experienced at the game, and talking to their wolf and other mobs in the text chat. The first sign of things being amiss starts when, out of nowhere, a diamond appears in JavaKnight's inventory. Confused but delighted, they rush to place it in their chest and then continue to explore the world. Eventually, they come upon a cave with a spawn dungeon. Clearly afraid, despite the world seemingly being unpeaceful, they search through the dungeon chests and find a strange music disc. -7. Before we can reflect too deeply on this, JavaKnight notices the sun's going down. So I'd say the most important thing about this player is how they've been continuously characterized as a friendly, cautious player who is definitely not a fighter. That will be important in a bit. Cutting forward, presumably the next day, JavaKnight notices something strange in the distance. Some massive structure. Approaching, they find two towers emitting some kind of beam to an odd staticky portal made of a purple material that doesn't appear in the base game. Each of the two towers had a locked iron door at the base, and JavaKnight peers inside of one, but whatever they see has been censored for us. Strangely, JavaKnight doesn't seem particularly fazed, and without much more investigation, runs back to the village. Back at home base, JavaKnight creates a jukebox using their newly acquired diamond and plays this new -7 disc. As the disc plays this eerie, staticky ambience, JavaKnight seems to freeze, looking down at the ground, similar to the player at the end of the first episode. And then, out of nowhere, kills their wolf and, seemingly imbued with some kind of rageful energy, sprints around the village, killing the villagers in days. Their mouths shakes as if they're filled with adrenaline. At one point, JavaKnight even accidentally drops their sword. Their movements are almost reminiscent of when you've been jump scared or chased in a horror game, or startled in an FPS, shaking mouths and jerking movements, like a mix of anger and panic. The music increases in distortion as JavaKnight bolts for the portal, jumps inside, and the video ends. This episode is some primo, if a bit silly, creepypasta content. A music disc in Minecraft that makes you go evil mode. When I first watched this, my initial reaction was that it was a little bit goofy, and that's still true to an extent, but I think what was able to sell it for me is the way this kid is portrayed beforehand. It's actually kind of shocking when JavaKnight ends up killing their wolf, and I can't help but feel bad. Like, this kid loves all the mobs and is so friendly. I can just imagine the guilt they're gonna feel if/when they come out of this rage mode. Once again, looking at the tags, we find the following. Added, compressed riff, compressed static, entity 731, Zenora, removed Hero Ryan. Sorry if I took it too far for you, Java. I get a little excited from time to time, but does time really exist here? It's safe to assume the rift and static refer to the portal, but exactly what entity 731 and Zenora are is still unclear. Something to do with the disc, or perhaps what mysteriously spawned the diamond? And what about this dialogue? Did someone overtake control of Java's actions? It might be contextualized the dropping of the sword, that this was Java's attempt to stop killing, or set them up intentionally to discover the disc and play it. For now, we can only really keep watching. -12W30A. We're underwater. The moon is high in the sky, and some kind of tower or bridge rises into the air and leftward off screen. Oh no, here comes... Oh no, here comes right Bob. Hi, leftward. And now we're viewing another player, this time with what appears to be a yellow fisherman skin. Fittingly, they're fishing off a little dock near their house as daytime turns to evening. Again, for the most part, this gameplay is fairly normal. The only odd thing is when they notice a fish in the water seemingly fall rapidly downward before rising back up again. Just a subtle hint that things are a little off. As the evening turns to night, the player lays in bed to sleep. They are immediately awoken, transported somewhere new. Though their bed looks identical, it's clear this is not their cozy beach house. The player is now surrounded by a series of long piers and docks, bridges above the ocean that seem to stretch out infinitely.
Alrighty.
Mostly barren piers. Mobs like drown.
My pickaxe is about to break again. Let's go get another one.
The architecture of the docks seems to get exceedingly more strange. Lampposts snaking into the air, shifting wooden textures, odd shapes, and broken pieces. At one point, faced with a large gap, the player jumps, and though it seems like they're not going to make it, they land safely on what seems to be an invisible floor. This place almost doesn't feel human-made. It feels generated, like some kind of naturally occurring environment that is mimicking the architecture of players, but every once in a while breaking out with odd imperfections. Eventually, time cuts forward, implying they've been walking for a long time, and the player reaches a dead end, with a pit dropping into the water, a tunnel, diving deeper and deeper into the water. They run out of oxygen, and yet nothing happens. Reaching the bottom, they're confronted with a room filled with beds, 17 to be exact. The player approaches cautiously and lies down. And only a few frames before the video ends, this text appears in the chat log in a blue color. 1 down, 16 more, and it's over. This is up there as a contender for my favorite episode in the series. The imagery of the Enderman in the water is exactly why I love this series. Not only is it so unique, but genuinely striking, strange, and eerie. On the note of the plot, we're starting to see some kind of method to this madness. Some group or entity within the game seems to be collecting these players, trying to bring 17 of them together for some reason. Perhaps it's this host we keep hearing about? Let's see what's next. -19W14A.
I guess we could do that.
Driving ambient music that sounds like it could be straight out of Yumeniki plays as we see the POV of yet another player running around seemingly the same or a similar village to that of the first episode. The walls of the buildings have been replaced with a shifting dark green texture, and there are armor stands everywhere. The player seems in a hurry, with a hotbar full of these similarly dark green flowers called diminished flowers. They sprint from house to house, placing these flowers in the hands of various armor stands within them. Inside one, we see a whole family of armor stands and a chest with a
need 5.
As the player gives the last of their diminished flowers to an armor stand, their urgency seems to wane. They disable their HUD and stop moving. And the video ends. Once again, the imagery here is great. I love how monsters almost feel like stand-ins for real people, like this is some moment frozen in time or a recreation of a real place where people were. It takes on a slightly more ominous tone with that sign. I can't help but feel a certain culty rapture vibe here, like I'll see you in heaven, mom, or like the plan is organoid. The biggest question at play here is what is the player here even doing, and why do so many of these videos feature the player going into this sort of frozen state, like the user has just taken their hands off the keyboard and mouse or just spaced out? And I can't help but be reminded of Java Knight, the frantic nature of this player's actions. Are these players all being overtaken by something? Well, we only have one more episode to find out. -7W, 7B. Judging by the title, this video seems to be some kind of a follow-up to the Java Knight video, so this should definitely be interesting. We open on a dark image of the disk.
Alrighty.
As far as I know, if there's a code here, it's never resolved. Then we cut to seemingly yet another new player. Oddly, they're missing health and have some XP, signs they've been playing for some time, but have 0 items in their inventory. And something is very clearly wrong with this world. The time of day shifts rapidly, the sun teleporting around in the sky. The player approaches a familiar-looking village accompanied with a spooky cave noise. It's Java Knight's village, corrupted with large chunk errors and floating villagers. Yet again, players seem to be connecting to what should be single-player worlds, and something is corrupting them. Within one of these chunk errors, we find cutouts of an abandoned mineshaft. I can't help but be reminded of the mineshaft from the second video. Going to investigate, the player finds that inside one of the mineshaft's cart chests, there are 2 books. One seems to detail an account of someone who actually witnessed Java Knight's rampage, though they seem pretty unfazed by it. The most edgy crap I've ever seen, almost laughable. Kids do the strangest things. The next book contains lyrics from the song Francis Street by Kid the Band. I think the kids are going to be alright. I know we've had it come back once or twice. Why are you looking at me so surprised? The song is a sort of slice-of-life view of growing up in small-town suburban America, and though not necessarily a sad song, there is a twinge of melancholy backdrop to the perhaps absent parenting or addiction issues within the adults in these kids' lives that the song paints a picture of. It's an interesting inclusion in the series, but we'll move on from it for now. The player enters what was Java Knight's house, now half phased into a chunk error. Aside from that, it appears untouched. The jukebox is there, even the iron that was being smelted is still in the furnace. Popping the disc out of the jukebox and reinserting it, this player gives -7 a listen. They freeze for a moment, but before it can play for too long, eject the disc, seemingly disturbed or upset by it. Interestingly, as they leave the house, disc in hand, a diamond inexplicably appears in their inventory. They're even standing in the exact same spot Java Knight was. Strange. Wandering out of the village, the player comes across the same portal Java Knight did, but like the rest of the world, it seems broken. One of the towers is crooked, its beam stretching far out in the opposite direction. Interestingly, the door of the broken tower is missing. However, what is inside the tower is no longer censored, though there's no telling if this is the same thing Java Knight saw. It's a floating item, which appears to be a series of strange symbols. Now I have to give full credit to the Crescendex video here. I did not figure this out on my own. The symbols here are actually the language used in enchantment tables, and is also used in other media, and importantly, can be translated. I am aware. Following the stray beam of the broken tower, it leads the player to a broken and fractured portal, similar to the original, but this time with pieces of the compressed static still intact. The player enters the portal. They find themselves in a series of hallways made entirely from the materials of the portal. On the ground in front of them, there are a bunch of items, familiar items. They're the exact ones Java Knight had in their inventory when they jumped into the portal at the end of -7W7A. RIP Java Knight. Rooms branch from these purple halls, the insides of which are pretty baffling. Rapidly opening and closing fence doors, stacked beds, infinitely falling armor stands, just as unique and unsettling as the rest of the imagery of the series. After passing through a room full of what almost look like miniaturized end pillars, the player finds themselves in a room full of static, with an end crystal in the center. Almost as soon as they approach, a series of messages begin to appear at the bottom of the screen, logs of some kind of experiment.
Okay, so I was under the impression that the only archive that existed of Snapshot Null was the Snapshot Null archive channel. It turns out that there's a channel called Cheeto that has done HD re-uploads of the videos. I kind of thought that some of the compression just came with the videos, that they were uploaded in that resolution in the first place. But apparently, that is wrong. I've already edited 99% of this video, and I don't want to have to go all the way back and re-edit with the new HD ones. But the HD version of this video makes reading the text at the bottom of the screen so much easier. So from here on out, I'll just be cutting in using the HD footage. I can't believe I didn't discover this until now. Shout out Cheeto.
The MREC has been a slow process. Due to later messages, this acronym likely means something along the lines of music record end crystals. But I can tell I'm making some progress. Once I finally create the perfect procedure, then maybe the host will let me use these instead of the stupid EC he keeps making me use. Those are such a pain. Something very interesting happened today. A kid found one of my missing MR. He decided to play the record. I was going to stop him at first, but I was too curious to see how this half-baked record would go. Interesting results. He became half player, half entity. A very aggressive entity. I could tell that this kid and the entity had a struggle, but it seems the entity had vanquished him. Overall, this seems to prove that music records can be very reliable. I just need a better procedure. After this, the player finds a passageway beneath the end crystal and follows it to another out of this place. The player is just about to reach it when it shatters. They're stuck, and familiar red text appears at the bottom of the screen. You are going nowhere. This episode was a little denser on the straightforward plot. There truly does appear to be some larger network running these experiments on players, utilizing in-game items to influence them, overtake and control them, along with these entities they keep referencing, whatever they are. But unfortunately, we'll likely never get all the answers, as this is the last upload on the archive, and the series was deleted before it was ever finished. But that's not to say it's hopeless. There is something here to unravel, and more than just the plot, which I will dive into, there are actually some pretty interesting themes that I felt the hints of while watching, and of course some absolutely fantastic visuals. So let's take a step back and give Snapshot Null a proper analysis. Alright, so to be fully honest, the story elements of this series are the piece I'm least interested in. To some extent, I don't usually find the kind of sci-fi experiment narrative stuff to be super compelling, just as a matter of personal taste, but I do like how a lot of those story elements are communicated. The codes and puzzles and pacing, and of course all of the imagery and aesthetics. If you're more into the details of the story itself, I definitely recommend Crescendex's video, especially since it incorporates information and theories from people who were following the series at the time. But at the start here, I will give my own take on the story from my watch through on it. So first things first, let's talk about these snapshots. Exactly how they're being accessed or implemented isn't entirely certain, but it seems that they are being intentionally created or manipulated by some larger group for players to create worlds with. And when a player is able to join one of these corrupted or altered versions because it allows for two things to happen. Number one, for other players to interact in their seemingly single-player worlds, whether this is pieces of other worlds being placed or generated into separate player worlds upon creation, or if these are indeed somehow multiplayer, all the players sharing the same world. But number two, it also allows these players to be kind of manipulated, overtaken. But why is this being done? To me, it seems that this digital game environment is being used as a kind of in vitro environment to conduct this very MK Ultra type mind control research, along with testing and developing these entities we see throughout. Brixgoa, Zenoro, Entity 731, whatever it is that took hold of Java. And this is being overseen by some person or AI or entity known as the host, perhaps the very thing hosting these interconnected worlds. For these experiments, they seem to need to collect samples from players, though for what, it's not entirely clear. It seems conceivable that the point of this is to take over their minds. Not only do we see the recurring incidents of players suddenly freezing and being taken over, there's a very interesting relationship between the videos -12W30A and -19W14A, which was brought to my attention by the Crescendex video. At the end of the episode where the character is at the docks and finds the beds, they have exactly 13 bars of XP. And at the start of the next video, where the player appears to be overtaken by something and runs around giving out flowers, they also have exactly 13 bars of XP. It seems to suggest that once these players are collected, they are overtaken, controlled, for whatever experiment or end goal this mysterious group surrounding a host seems to have. The final element to this, though, is this group doesn't seem to have everything under control. There are entities here with seemingly their own motives. The red text seems to be in conflict with Brixgoa, and then there's the mysteriously appearing diamond in Java Knight's inventory. Whatever did that wanted Java Knight to find and play the disc, which is noteworthy because the logs from the researcher in the final episode seem to imply this was not their plan at all, and they were surprised by this. So at the very least, these entities have some form of free will that isn't completely under the control of the administrators/researchers. Alright, so there's my attempt at piecing together the narrative. A narrative which, mind you, was never finished, so who knows how close any of us can actually get without all the information. Now, despite this type of story not typically being my thing, I still found doing a bit more of the game theory stuff kind of fun, and it actually led me to a sort of epiphany about the themes of this series. A way of viewing it that I found really elevated storytelling, and it all stems from that seemingly out-of-place song. The inclusion of that lyric just felt out of place. I couldn't connect it cleanly until I started looking at the bigger picture. Some organization taking the video games and digital worlds kids grow up using and engineering them to manipulate and control those kids. If we take this concept and view it as a thematic parallel to the real-life tech media companies engineering their apps and video games to become more addictive, overtake the lives of their users, engineer algorithms to control what people watch and how people live, we could see those more somber underpinnings of that song as an extension of that phenomenon. Jamie was a girl next door. Knock, knock. Girl, you want to roll down to the video shop where the Lost Boys meet? She said, you don't gotta ask twice, because my dad's not really sober. And the later verse, you don't gotta ask twice, because my dad's out back just smoking out. If we can kill some time, then we're doing all right. Kids, in the absence of their parents, escaping to their own places, their own worlds. While the song paints a perhaps nostalgic version of this with bike rides to video stores, we see more and more in recent generations that these places are now digital. As a consequence, the corporations who run these digital places have more control over the lives of this generation of children than ever before, especially as the phenomenon of iPads and computers taking the place of more hands-on parenting seems to take hold. And this can be terrifying. Kids who are more integrated with technology than ever but less literate of it, interacting so often with a digital system that you can't make sense of, engineered by corporate ghouls using literal neuroscientific research to keep hold of them.
Because before you want to get to a kid, you have to appeal to their parents. So the parents would turn the television off, the kids have direct access to it now, so it doesn't matter. And there's entire dialogue happening between these tech companies and kids that parents are completely unaware of, and entire companies and apps evolving and changing based on complete dialogue with kids like kids. Because they're making decisions about the neurochemistry of an entire generation. It's 9 dudes in Silicon Valley, 5 of them putting their hands up, and then every kid's brain changes.
Bug-eyed salamanders in Silicon Valley.
I don't really know how intentional any of these thematic parallels are, but I found this lens to view the series and realized the plot lines seemed to hit a little closer to home. Additionally, the fact that the series was made in the summer of 2020 just feels especially apt. And this idea of interacting with digital entities and systems that are so corrupted or simply so opaque and out of the realm of our understanding is something the series is able to portray so incredibly well via its imagery and execution. As I said, what makes Snapshot Null stand out so much to me is how genuinely unique its imagery is, especially in its genre. It feels authentically out there and surreal, like it doesn't fall into the more expected Minecraft horror tropes. And additionally, I feel like it actually utilizes its format of a video game really well. These chunk errors, doors opening and closing rapidly, floating or misaligned NPCs. It feels like something isn't just haunting these worlds, but that the software of the game itself is glitching and broken. The most effective instance of which I would have to point to being -17W10A and Brixgoa. Brixgoa just looks so alien to both Minecraft and what we traditionally think of as a spooky anomaly in a video game. Not a dark silhouette with glowing eyes or a monster, just a bizarre piece of geometry spouting mathematical gibberish. And I think the oddness of it captures really well this type of unease and dread caused by seeing something, but not truly.
God damn it, I don't know.
Additionally, I think the game's use of the more traditional elements of Minecraft actually give this series an almost biblical, spiritual air, like the use of the end crystals, which in and of themselves resemble the
wheels intersecting wheels of the Ophanim in Ezekiel.
And the portals and shifting static textures used throughout give a metaphysical, supernatural feel to everything. And of course, the use of spiritual and cosmic horrors is integral to this concept of eldritch, incomprehensible horror we've been discussing this entire time. In this next series, these elements take a much more front and center role, clashing the two worlds of corporate tech and explorations of the afterlife and spiritualism. Let me take you next to People Still Live Here. People Still Live Here is yet another series by the prolific Kane Pixels. Somehow, while juggling the Backrooms, the Oldest View, and the upcoming Backrooms movie, he found the time to work in yet another new project, the format of which is largely different from the found footage works he's known for.
Kane Pixels, eh?
The game style, though still with all the cinematic edge you'd expect from one of the biggest reasons I wanted to cover this project is because there's a really massive component. Well, no more edge light. The bulb blew up. One of the biggest reasons I wanted to cover this project is because there's a really massive component to the series I haven't seen a lot of people really dig into, as well as a connection I haven't seen even mentioned yet, which I think ties together the series' themes thus far. So without further ado, let's take a look at the first video. Stay well. The sound of slow and distorted singing, as we see assorted close-ups of some mechanized toy, specifically a laughing head. One of these. Yeah, leave it to Kane Pixels to include a novelty post-war spitting toy as a core visual element in the LS series. Along with this artificial plastic face, we also cut to close-ups on an older man lying on the ground. Slowly, he closes his eyes and we see the sky and begin to hear static? Taking a look at the spectrogram for this audio, we can see this is actually Morse code, which spells out the following poem. And now my body has become one with a faraway land. I am the meadow and the sky all around. You work on the land, and so you work for the land. And in return, the land accepts you. You may think your work is
gotta
quiet
wait
and
for my
inclusive
shit
and
to
kind,
smell
but the
so I
land
can
will
get some
always remember what you did,
experience.
and you and your work will live on through the land. Though very striking, there's not a lot to take from this video without the context of the later entries, aside from the poem seeming to imply the older man we saw has just passed away. So let's move on to the next entry. People Still Live Here, version 8.3, 2005 gameplay. We open on the launch screens of a video game, Marathon 8 Software Inc. and an introduction. This interactive video game is a comprehensive reconstruction of the events experienced and documented by Clifton J. Saywell between 1934 and 1946, in memory of Clifton J. Saywell. So that's the setup. The things we see within this video game are supposedly reenactments of true events. It's somewhat safe to assume the man in the previous video was Clifton Saywell, and it's also worth noting that World War II occurred smack dab in the middle of these events. Let's see what this game has in store. Over the menu of the game, titled People Still Live Here, we hear a cheery, if grating MIDI composition of the very same song the Laugh-In Head was singing. Starting the game, we see this message before loading in. You lie awake, unable to take your mind off what you discovered in the swamp. Tomorrow, you will return to that place. Do you remember the overgrown man from when you were a child? He said you must go to the meadow alone. You always wondered what he had meant by that. A clock chimes, and we fade into the game. We're in a low-poly environment, a swamp. Just ahead, there's what appears to be a Wampanoag UwU, which the player enters, to find a staircase leading underground. They descend the stairs into a concrete hallway lit with harsh blue fluorescent lights. Finally reaching the door on the other side, we enter into Day 1. The doorway seems to have transported us to these massive, seemingly endless fields overlooked by blue skies. I would hazard a guess that this is the meadow. The goal of the game is simple. Find all 3 items and leave before sunset. A wampum belt, a belt made of shell beads used for a variety of purposes throughout northeastern indigenous tribes and cultures, a watch, and a compressor. I actually think I stumbled upon the exact compressor in this image. It's a BLDC compressor used specifically for water aeration of ponds, perhaps related to the swamp from earlier? I don't know. With the objective set, the player sets out to explore. The only sound
That's scup-ass windmill.
And some trees in our immediate vicinity. It's hard to see anything other than endless rolling green hills. It's peaceful, but very eerie. The first item, the watch, is found beneath a nearby tree, where a picnic blanket has been laid out. That wasn't too hard. Wandering out into the fields, the player stumbles upon a lone yellow house. Its saturated colors feel like they should give it a bright feel, but there's something about the dirtiness of the wood texture that makes it just a little off. Inside, the wind is muffled, and the light coming from the windows is warm. The atmosphere here almost reminds me of a mist, or when you're taking shelter in the long dark. The muffled winds and dimmed illumination. Paintings and bookshelves adorn the walls, and a strange diagram rests on the desk, showing these intersecting lines of blue and yellow.
Still not enough.
I'll keep that in mind, I guess. Out into the fields again, the next item, the wampum belt, is found on a bench by this lone fountain. The distance between these landmarks seems entirely impractical from a city planning perspective. That's all I'm saying. Cresting over a hill, the player finds the aforementioned blue and yellow hoops, and using the arrow as a guide, finds that it's pointing them toward some massive building far in the distance. Without any other direction, they begin the long walk over, and on their way, encounter something strange. That's
what the?
Railroad crossing signal? Is it alive? Well, it's gone now. Reaching the large fenced-in building, the player has to travel through this conveniently located subterranean tunnel to make it inside. And entering the front door, it seems out of place. A large office building with a snaking corporate logo, and oddly enough, it's not a fictional one. It is nearly identical to the logo used by Equinix Inc., a real-life data center company, one of the largest in the world. It's very odd. And the player tries to open a door nearby. The footage seems to freeze, then cut ahead. Whether this was intentionally cut out to censor something or a bug caused by trying to open the door, it's definitely strange. Ahead, the player opens a mechanized door to a server room.
Strange, very strange.
Finally, someone's opened the door. I've been stuck in this room forever. The shepherd's not mad, is he? I was just trying to look at computers to see where my favorite people were moved to. It's been a long time since I've read computer works, though, so I can't figure out how to get their location out of the machine. I think it's time for me to go home. Thank you for opening this door.
What? Who is the shepherd? Definitely feels like it implies some kind of semi-religious overseer figure. And there's some other really odd world building going on here. His favorite people were moved somewhere, implying that this wasn't done of their own volition, but that they were relocated by an outside force. And then this guy being unable to read computer words anymore. It's like the people who presumably live here have almost been infantilized, guided or subjugated by this outside force. Inside the server room, the player finds the compressor and is given the notification to return home. On their way out, they see the TNG man again.
Hey, you're not going to tell anyone I was here, are you? I mean, you're technically allowed to, but I would really appreciate it if you didn't. I don't want people to think I'm spying on their thoughts. It's important to respect.
Okay, I'm sorry, that's hilarious. Putting aside this man was just kidnapped by a train signal, the implication that people might think he's been spying on their thoughts seems to imply the data being stored.
People to think I'm spying on their thoughts. It's important to respect.
Okay, I'm sorry, that's hilarious. Putting aside this man was just kidnapped by a living train signal, the implication that people might think he's been spying on their thoughts seems to imply the data being
Oh, that's funny. Alright, we've almost got enough XP.
Going back to PNG Man's fate, I don't get the impression that this train signal is in fact the shepherd, so I have to assume it's some kind of agent or proxy of the shepherd. On the way back home, the atmosphere feels different. Though before it felt eerie but otherwise peaceful, the tension that this crossing signal could appear out of nowhere is palpable. With nowhere to hide and the entity many times faster than our character, we are entirely at its mercy. As the windmill and trees near, the sky begins to dim, and a moon icon signifying the approaching night flashes on screen. Just as the player approaches their stone house, the crossing signal entity appears, and is only a second away from reaching them when they successfully escape inside.
You made it!
The game
Yep,
itself
perfect.
is, but even stranger is that this supposedly recounts true events which took place in the 30s and 40s. Aside from being patently supernatural, there's also some weird things going on with time here. Equinix wasn't founded until 1998, and it should go without saying that they didn't have data centers like this in 1934 or even in the 1940s when computing was starting to become a thing. It's also worth noting the contrasting imagery that shows up throughout this game. The more natural landscapes of the swamps or fields with the industrialized, concrete, and fluorescently lit corporate buildings. It feels intentional. That's not the end of what can be found within this entry, though. Looking at the description, we find a link to an image, a scanned copy of the Boston Globe obituary for Clifton J. Saywell, died February 1994. Pursued mathematics professionally.
Alright, let's go. Back to the mining.
Particularly his niece and him Swamp. He was often seen walking near the edges of the Hockomock Swamp or sitting on the porch of the Bridgewater Public Library with a small notebook in hand. Smarter viewers than me discovered that within the metadata of this image, we can find that this image was scanned in 2005 by Lucas Timmerman, presumably a relative of Ann Timmerman. Presumably, Lucas's perspective is the one we're seeing throughout the gameplay of the series as well, judging by the matching 2005 dates. There's also a decent amount of info that we can extrapolate from the obituary itself. It seems to place our location in Massachusetts, and that swamp from the beginning of the game as the Hockomock Swamp. From my research, the Hockomock Swamp, the name of which means place where spirits dwell, has a lot of history, used by the Wampanoag during King Philip's War, as well as being a generally important hunting ground for the Wampanoag. There's also a slightly darker side to its reputation, as it's said to be one such location where the deity Hobomok dwells in, a deity of death and disease. Additionally, it sits at the center of the urban legend of the Bridgewater Triangle, a supposed hotspot of UFOs, spirits, and other supernatural phenomena. We'll get more into the details of the Hockomock later, but for now, it does seem to make sense for the type of place you find a portal to a strange other world. If this game is to be believed, and the obituary's mention of Clifton Saywell's association with the Hockomock seems to reinforce this, Clifton Saywell discovered this portal sometime before going off to war in World War II, and it's also maybe worth noting that he went into mathematics and human computing after the war. Interesting, considering he seemingly discovered a computing data center from the future. Alright, trying to keep all this information in mind, let's move on to the next video. Graveyard. We're not in a game anymore. The person recording stands in a field of rolling hills, just like the ones that appear in the game. The wind blows and there are windmills scattered throughout, though noticeably more modern than the one we see in the game. It feels safe to assume that this is the meadow. Sunken in the ground nearby are a handful of crossing sails, like, well, a graveyard. And that's the end. The purpose this video serves seems to be twofold. Firstly, confirming to us that the events of the game are at least partially real, and that people are still able to get there. That it seemingly isn't only something Clifton Saywell had access to. Otherwise, though, it doesn't provide many more answers. Let's move on. People still live here, 2005, Day 2 gameplay. We begin Day 2 just like Day 1, with 3 new items to collect: a feather, a sundial, and a bowling ball. There seems to be some kind of pattern to these items. The watch and sundial, of course, go together as timepieces, but the other two are a little harder to parse out. The feather looks to be a turkey feather, which could again connect to the Wampanoag, turkey being plentiful in the region, turkey feathers used in the creation of various items by Wampanoag artists and craftspeople, and also possibly being relevant as a widely recognized symbol of Thanksgiving, which was specifically between the English pilgrims and the Wampanoag, though it's really unlikely that turkey was actually the main dish there that day. So there's some kind of a connection there, but the connection between a compressor and a bowling ball, I have no idea, to be honest. Either way, it doesn't seem like we have the full data set to be able to put that together. Today, the field seems a little more populated with landmarks, new buildings and structures, and even a hot air balloon. On the way to the hot air balloon,
Hold on, I
there's
think
as well
someone's
a
doing
with
Discord.
a sign that reads, for
Hello there.
Hello there.
We find a PNG clown right below.
How are you?
Bad news, buddy. These are my last balloons. I'm gonna have to keep them to myself.
Good.
I happen to know Anna
Good. I'm just watching video essays while mining my hole. Beautiful big hole. Gonna go all the way to the bottom of the world. Very slow, I must say. This is taking... I've only mined like 5 levels down. Look at this. Hello?
Hey, yeah.
Oh, I thought you weren't listening. Anyway, I've only mined like 5 levels down. This is gonna take forever. But I'm dedicated. I'm gonna mine this. Oh, I should have made the hole smaller, but you know, I'm not a man who pre-plans things out.
Fair enough. I am currently cooking some bacon for some fried rice.
Oh, nice. You know, the only reason I haven't streamed Yu-Gi-Oh! This week is because I don't want to spoil the deck I'm going to be using. Keeping it close to my chest.
I'm playing a really funny deck this week. I'm going to be honest.
We've had 5 Walldozers weekly, and I've never even come in top 2 once. But I'm going to change that this week.
I'm playing a deck I call Trap Stall Shut-All.
Alright. Trap Stall Shut-All, alright. Sounds painful.
It is painful to play against. And really funny, because it also spams out a card called Quintet Magician to nuke the opponent's board.
I see.
For funsies, you know?
Well, I'm not going to reveal what deck I'm playing. I want to win for once. I don't know what to hit for Mitsurugi, though, because it's coming out next week. Played against that deck, like, at the regional that I went to, and, like, I got completely slapped both times I played against it. You know, do you know what Mitsurugi does? What does it do?
Look, let me tell you this. You need to ban King of the Feral Imps. Just trust me.
Not even a Mitsurugi card.
So, it's not a Mitsurugi card, but all Mitsurugis are reptiles, and King of the Feral Imps searches any reptile card.
Dodix will be in shambles if I ban it.
Look, let me explain to you why you should ban it on principle. Evil Sex Haver offered to bribe me to get you not to ban it. And that should be enough of a red flag alone.
You know, speaking, I don't know if this is a spoiler or not. He sent me his deck earlier today, and I'm like, wow, you're so resilient, choosing to still play this deck even after all the ban list hits. I have to commend him for his dedication to this one deck.
To be fair, I just switch decks every week so nobody can counter my strategies if they can't figure out what the fuck my strategy is.
And Evil Sex Haver does the exact opposite. He stays on one deck even though it's...
Shadal is kind of vulnerable to his strats because, you know, all my cards are dark monsters and really like the grave. But at the same time, Trapstall Shadal was a deck I played for quite a while, and I have a feeling that if I go up against UwU, Lost Wind is going to teach them a thing or three.
Yeah. Fucking, they got 3 cards back on the most recent ban list.
Yup.
Well, thankfully, I hit us.
Shadal works. You essentially abuse Trap Trick, and you play a bunch of 2-of traps in the deck that can deal with any situation, and you basically use Trap Trick like a toolbox. Like, say your opponent likes back row, you basically use it to search out Heavy Storm Duster, and then just blow up their back row with it.
Originally, when I was planning to go to the regionals that I went to, I was thinking about playing Trap Tricks Dogmatica, because you would just summon out a Trap Trick, search Trap Hole, put it into the Sarah, then you could special summon Ecclesia, because now you had a monster from the extra deck. And, you know, it was an alright deck.
You also play Dogmatica Punishment, because 2 pops is pretty decent.
It is. It's just that, you know, the deck just wasn't good enough. So I replaced all the Trap Tricks with Kashtira instead, and it performed alright.
I also played Necro Fusion, which is primarily how I get out my funny Quintet Magician play.
Yeah. Oh god, my back hurts.
You can see why this deck's gonna be really funny for me, not so much for the opponent.
It sounds painful, as I'd expect from you. You're not beating the paid actor allegations at this point.
My guy, I haven't even played a single meta deck during the tournament other than Chimera, which is tier 3.
And yet you've gotten paid every week. I might believe that you might be a bit of a paid actor behind the scenes.
Look, I just have skill, and pure skill alone.
You're saying everyone else just has skill issues?
Exactly.
It's very bold of you.
Like, in response to these allegations against me, all I have to say is I have done nothing wrong, and that you all have a skill issue.
You did nothing wrong whatsoever? You got banned? You didn't even know you got banned?
Bro, I didn't look bad. I may have gotten banned, but I didn't get banned, if you know
didn't
what
get
I mean.
no email, no explanation? That's the Triff Gaming one. You know when he got banned?
Yeah, Triff got banned because he made a joke about cheating on a YouTube vid. And
I did install for time. Everyone with a brain would realize it was a joke. Yeah, it feels like so long ago. And now he's topping YCS's.
Triff is the GOAT, though, let's be honest.
He actually made me think pendulums were good, and then I tried playing them and they were not.
Lamau, imagine thinking pendulums are good.
I mean, pendulum players just have really good propaganda, you know?
Look, the pendulum, fun fact, did you know that Goebbels survived World War II, went to Japan, and made pendulum cards a thing?
Who?
Goebbels was Hitler's chief propagandist during World War II.
Oh god. My pickaxe is about to break again. God damn it, I'm wasting so much iron making pickaxes. Because they changed the way that you make netherite equipment now. Otherwise I'd be using a netherite pickaxe. How do you make a netherite equipment nowadays? Because it doesn't let me anymore.
There is something called, you need to get something called a smithing template. It's found in the nether, specifically bastions.
Bastion? Like from GX?
Yes, and Overwatch.
Yeah, he dated that lion girl, the Amazon one.
What? Robots don't have dicks, though. What's the point of him dating?
I mean, I understand Bastion in that sense. I would too.
What is Ultron revealed to be? What is Ultron gonna be revealed to have a crush on Emma Frost next?
I don't know. I wouldn't put it past them. I wouldn't like it though.
Is Ultron and ex-Marvel Emma Frost gonna be a thing in Marvel Rivals?
I hope not. Oh boy. Time to make another pickaxe. We're gonna run out of iron at this rate. Alright, let's head back out. Bum-ba-da-bum. But I know that other cards besides Mitsurugi are going to be coming out in that selection pack. I'm looking forward to it. One specific.
So Mitsurugi is so much a threat because I mean you saw the new Dark Magician card in that pack, and you know I'm going to look forward to that for reasons.
Reasons.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to something else in that pack. But also, King of the Fairlands, he's good and all, but like, I think Mitsurugi, it's not gonna really hurt the deck as much.
It's gonna hurt the deck a bunch.
Listen, I preemptively hit Exo Sister Monster when we had the first tournament. I want something on that level.
Trust me, King of the Feral Imps is on that level.
Fine, I'll trust you, but if Mitsurugi wins, while those are weekly 7, then I will be a bit peeved.
Look, what you want to do in order to fuck Mitsurugi over is, firstly, you just ban King of the Feral Imps. Don't give them a free rank 4 search. Second of all, you either ban Ame no Habakiri. Actually, yeah, just ban Ame no Habakiri and ban King of the Imps. All those things are gonna be gone. Just kill both those and Mitsurugi won't be able to do anything.
Well, I'll keep that in mind, but for now, I'm probably only gonna ban King of the Feral Imps.
In that case, then limit Ame no Habakiri, at least.
You know what? I won't. Although I might. Depending on if you get 3rd place, you can do it yourself, but I'm not gonna do it. I want to see what they do without King of the Feral Imps.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. Can't be fairer than fair enough. Alrighty.
So, is there an anime villain that reminds you of yourself?
Anime villain that reminds me of myself. I mean, I don't know if he reminds me of myself, but I would love to have his powers.
I'm listening.
Regulus from ReZero. I'm just like, wow, I wish I had that.
Oh, you had Archbishop of Breed. No, that's a good one. Honestly, there is an anime villain that reminds me of myself. I kind of see myself in Kubutsuchi Muzan.
You know, I have a question. The way that Regulus's powers work, can he eat stuff? Is he capable of eating and drinking?
Yeah, he's capable of eating and drinking.
I don't know. I just thought about that for a long while. And like, wouldn't his ability cause him to project it?
No.
Alright. Fuck, my pickaxe broke. And go make a new one. Fair enough.
So have you ever played Undertale Yellow?
I have watched people play it. I haven't played it myself.
You should stream it. It's pretty good. It's free.
Maybe.
Plus, the neutral route fight is peak.
Listen, if I'm gonna do that, I want to first do Deltarunes 3 and 4, because I haven't actually played those yet.
Fair enough. So, fun fact, did you know that the mods for Undertale used in the 10th anniversary stream were actually made by the devs of Undertale Yellow, as requested by Toby Fox?
That's interesting. That's very interesting.
Specifically was actually made by them. You know the Sans fight I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, the one where he's doing a little jig.
Yeah. They also got the devs for TS Underswap to hell.
Underswap. That's pretty funny.
What?
It's pretty funny. Undertale. I don't know, I just underswap, you know?
Well, considering that the first person you meet in TS Underswap is fucking Asgore, and Temmie replaces Flowey, it is pretty funny.
Yep. I don't know. I made a bet with one of my friends that I would lose a certain amount of weight by the time he came back to this state, and I haven't done it yet, and he's gonna be back in like a month. And he said that he's gonna tattoo something Undertale related onto me. I'm kind of afraid.
You just need to start doing push-ups, sit-ups, drink plenty of carrot juice, and go on a keto diet.
Need to do 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, and a 10-kilometer run.
I mean, to be fair, that probably wouldn't hurt. Like, you do that every day for a month, you're gonna be swole.
I'm gonna be in pain, that's what I'm gonna be.
Yeah, but you'll get swole.
Alright, I paused this video essay. We were almost at the end of it.
Mad about the color of my balloon. If you can get me one of her paint, I'll put my fire balloon down. You can have whatever's inside. Sound like a deal?
Alrighty, I guess that's the next objective. Look at that, a little more questing going on. On the search for Anne the Painter, the player comes to this red barn.
I love how...
Solar panels.
Oh, by the way, a funny tech pick for Shadal. Have you ever heard of Dark Revival?
Have you ever heard of Shadow Imprisonment Mirror?
Okay, yeah, but no. Dark Revival is a card that essentially lets you tribute... If your opponent normal or special summons, you can tribute that card plus one you control. And then special summon a level 5 or higher dark spellcaster from your deck to the field.
That's interesting.
Yeah, which is really funny because there is a Shadal card that fits that description. It's usually used... It's not used in Dark Magician anymore. Because, you know, most Dark Magician decks don't actually use Dark Magician all that much. But it's really funny in Shadal, because you can do that to summon out the level 5 one that lets you draw 2.
Oh yeah. I thought you were gonna talk about the fire one.
What?
I thought you were talking about... Oh shit, I just fell. God damn it. I thought you were talking about the fire one.
It also can summon Winda back from the grave.
Interesting. That's an interesting factoid right there.
Which to me is really funny, personally.
I don't know. Invoked. Have you ever...
It's also a normal trap that is completely searchable by Trap Trick.
I see. I don't know. I personally play Shadal with Invoke. That's the way I've always played it. Very basic. I'm a very basic man. I play Shadal with Invoked.
like a pansy.
I mean, that's just the way you do it, you know? You just don't change the recipe if it's already good.
As I said, I just played pure shit all with a fuckload of traps and hand traps just to make my opponent's life as miserable as humanly possible.
Anyway, have you read the OCG Stories manga?
No, I have not.
Man, it's kind of weird how they're tying a bunch of cards into the spell counter lore. Like the First of Dragons, you know that fusion monster?
Yeah.
It's apparently part of the spell counters lore. Fucking what's his name? Yeah, what's his name? The invoked guy, invoked Alistair. Alistair fights against it.
Does he win?
He wins. I mean, I'm pretty sure that he wins by killing the guy who summoned it, but he does win.
I mean, fair enough. Killing your op so they can't do it again is a valid strategy.
And Flying Kamakiri, you know that old insect monster?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also apparently part of the spell counters lore. We see fucking Endymion and Alistair, they fight it together. And Giant Rat as well. Giant Rat is apparently part of the spell counter lore.
I mean, yeah, Giant Rat is just a rodent, you know?
Yeah, they fight against one.
So what's your opinion on OCG Stories?
I think that I'm disappointed the fact that they didn't animate the OCG stories for the Sky Strikers. They just animated these weird little shorts that didn't follow the manga. And I was very disappointed because it actually had a decent story.
I mean, fair enough.
Yeah, it's like Ray's story about found family and her friendship with Rose, and then they just make it into these weird action set piece that lasted 5 minutes. Shit, my pickaxe broke. God damn it.
We see the first fully rendered and animated character, playing a sweet country tune on the platform above. Within the hay here, the player finds a game of Minesweeper, except instead of mines, it's... Eventually, they're successful and locate the sundial in the haystack. Nice. Moving forward, the player finds his way to Anne Henson's garden spire, and there he finds Anne the painter, hard at work.
Goodness, look at you intruding upon my personal space. Can't you see I'm in the middle of an illustration? I've been struggling to complete this piece for a long while. Could it be that you're the assistant the shepherd promised me? Where's my last portion of lime green paint go?
From there, the player completes a simple fill-in-the-color minigame, and as a reward, Anne lets him pick out one of her paintings.
I stored them over there inside the blue bandstand.
Inside the bandstand where Anne keeps her paintings, the player finds the feather, picks out a painting, and then notices something. A trapdoor. Descending inside, he finds himself in a stony underground sewer system. The atmosphere is dark and genuinely
sigh. I gotta make another pickaxe because they keep breaking.
Descending into the darkness of the tunnels, there are these horrific sounds. Is this crying, screaming, singing? That's unclear, but one thing is, he is not alone down here, and things only get worse. Distracted by the sound of a detour, night has begun to fall. Rushing back outside, the sky has already turned to dusk, and it is only getting darker. And suddenly, that same eerie melody begins ringing out across the meadow.
So what's your opinion on Yusei Fudo?
Yusei Fudo? I mean, he's alright. You know, God, let me think. What are all the main characters in you? I think he's actually more towards the bottom of my list. Well, actually, that might not be the case. I have always really liked Yuya and Yuma. I like those two quite a lot. I really don't like how Arc V ended. Arc V, everything up to the end of the Synchro arc I thought was really good. I really enjoyed it.
Well, that's because they had to rush everything after.
Yeah, and then the Xyz arc, and then the fucking Zark stuff, it sucked. It was so bad.
Well, no, the Zark stuff was kind of foreshadowed, to be fair.
Yeah, but it was not handled great, though. Like, it was alright. It was better than the Xyz arc stuff, which actually I really did not like. But it still wasn't good, though. It just wasn't a great ending.
To be fair, after Fusion showing up and beating the shit out of Yuya was peak fiction.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Yuma's probably my favorite. I quite like Yuma. Jaiden's also pretty good. You know, the only protagonist which I really don't like is what's the one from Reigns? I actually don't even remember his name.
Yusaku?
Yeah, I think.
Why don't you like him?
I just did not like Reigns in general. I did not enjoy it.
Oh, was it all the AI stuff?
Yeah, I watched like 30 episodes of it, and then I just dropped it because it was so boring.
I kind of liked how Revolver would just straight up use guns. Gun dragons.
Yeah. Although, it's, you know, Blood Shepherd should have been called Revolver. It just makes more sense for his character design.
Fair enough.
I don't know. I just did not enjoy Reigns, I must say.
And you have the right to not enjoy Reigns. It is one of your human rights. Yes, that was an Archbishop of Greed reference.
Yep, they put it down in the Constitution. It's your human right to not enjoy Yu-Gi-Oh! Reigns.
Although Reigns holds a special place in my heart, because that was the era I really got into competitive Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah, I mean, me too. I just didn't enjoy the series. I got into it at around that time. I just didn't like the series.
Into the Viray. Honestly, my favorite protagonist easily is Jaden Yuki.
Jaden is pretty good. He is. I don't know. I feel like my enjoyment of the series has a lot to do with how I place with my enjoyment of the main character.
Like Jaden Yuki was fucking hilarious.
He was great.
Like, I did not like Yuya very much, because he had one shtick and he didn't do it well.
I like my little depressed sad boy arc where he has to get happy again.
Yeah. However, Yuma I liked because he grew from an incompetent dumbass to an actual decent duelist.
I really like Yuma. Yeah, I agree.
Ironically, Yuma is the one protagonist deck I have never actually played, because as you know, I play Dark Magician. I don't know if I've shown this, but I have a full hero deck. Multiple hero decks, in fact, Master Duel.
I have a question. If you could take a deck into the Yu-Gi-Oh! World during a time period, like if you had to go into 5Ds, you'd have to, you couldn't be able to play anything past Synchros. You played in Zexal, you wouldn't be able to take anything past Xyz. What deck would you bring in for your fame and notoriety?
If I were to say Isekai into Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal, I'd just bring fucking Tinfish gadgets and rank 4 spam the fuck out of them.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have any of the number cards. Like, those are like one of a kind.
I don't. Well, here's the thing. I can just beat some number duels and fucking yank their shit.
I guess that would mean that you'd have to go before the whole astral leaving thing.
Yeah, but no.
I have an amazing.
Take out several threats during that period of time with Tinfish gadget.
I have a very great answer to this. I think I would take True Dracos into the original Yu-Gi-Oh.
Okay, but you couldn't use them because they didn't come out then.
It's not about like the time period that they came out. It's just about Xyz don't exist in fucking 5Ds yet, so you wouldn't be able to bring in an Xyz deck.
Oh.
But like you'd be able to bring in Sword Soul to 5Ds because that's like a dedicated synchro deck.
Oh fuck me, that would absolutely murder the entire 5Ds cast.
Exactly.
No, I'd still bring gadgets Zexal, but Silver and Gold gadget would make it so much fucking worse for them.
I know. I think I would bring Draco into OG Yu-Gi-Oh! That would be amazing. I would love it. I would have the greatest time just tributing a spell and trap card to summon something. Having everyone be so shocked. You can't do that?
That's against the rule.
Through the rules, I have True Dracos, which can be tributed by using spell and trap cards. Now go! Ignister, obliterate! don't know, I sometimes find it funny how like the entire economy of Yu-Gi-Oh is based around this card game.
Trying to make his way home as fast as possible, the player finally gets a glimpse of the shepherd. A tower cloaked in black and carrying a shepherd's crook. It's not quite as fast as the process, but it gains on the player nevertheless. He makes it to the stone house, once again mere moments before he's caught. Despite not collecting all of our items, we're still greeted with a cheery celebration for our accomplishment. 2 out of 3. So that's the shepherd. Interestingly, turning up the brightness and contrast on some of these frames, the shepherd almost seems to have a green hue to him, which makes me think back to the overgrown man that's mentioned in the beginning of the game. Otherwise, I find it interesting how much traveling underground has been a recurring thing, and it's also interesting how often we run into other people living here in the meadow. With that said, let's see what's in store in the final upload as of now. Sunshine. We once again seem to be in the meadow, in real life. In the distance, we can see some structures, something that almost looks like a bunker and a telephone pole.
But no, were I to show up with gadgets, mid-XZ's anime, I'd just be doing the most heinous shit possible.
Like, it'd be summoning Gear Pass?
No, not even that. I'd just be like, hey gang, bing bong, silver gadget, gold gadget.
Baguska, that's a number monster. But that wasn't ever shown in the anime. You could be the one guy who has Baguska.
To be fair, Baguska would unironically be cracked in Zexal.
It would. I wonder who had that number in the fucking show. By the end, they supposedly.
You know another number that hasn't been shown yet? Crooked Cook.
Oh, true. Yeah, like by the end of the series, they supposedly beat everyone with a number and had all the numbers on them. So like, who had those numbers? Who had this?
They got off-screen probably.
Yeah, they off-screened Baguska. Damn, that would have been a duo and a half. What other crazy numbers were never shown? Is Rongo? Was Rongo Miniad in the anime?
No, Rongo was used in the anime, just very badly, and he had a different effect.
Oh, wow, that's unfortunate.
We find the following. Video taken
really is
2023 and September 2024. Context.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Number monster.
Passage to Meadow Outland Steps, uncertain locality, via derelict structure in Northern California, USA. Additional footage was found along with this 18-second clip and is currently being reviewed for potential release. Very interesting. Firstly, it appears there are even more entrances into this meadow across the world. Northern California and Massachusetts are literally across the entire country from each other. Presumably that bunker is the other end of the derelict structure this person found the portal within. Additionally, from the way this text is written, it seems to imply some organization
Galaxy Eyes Photon Lord, he never used that.
I am very much looking forward to seeing this.
That one was shown in the manga.
Yeah, manga in it. Manipulator of Souls, that can be used for an FTK. That would have been something.
That was shown in the anime, though, and was used for an FTK.
My god, I haven't watched it in so long, I actually don't remember.
Yeah, no, remember the Barians tried fighting, what was that guy's name? Not Don Thousand, the guy who worked for him, name started... He was like, really, he absolutely had a hate boner for Yuma.
I can't remember, honestly. The guy with the hate boner for
He had white
Yuma.
hair, and he was the guy who used the Masquerade.
I honestly have no idea, I'm to be honest.
Yeah, I don't remember his name, but I do know that he did use him.
Let's see, what other number monsters are there? Used. I guess the question is, do the numbers from the manga exist in the anime universe?
I would think so.
Like, was somebody out there running around with 7 Sins and Pain Gainer and all that? Like
It would be real funny if they did.
Was someone playing Stealth Kraken?
Yes, actually, somebody did play Stealth Kraken in the anime.
I really have not watched it in so long, I actually don't remember.
So spoiler alert, Don Thousand made a shitload of fake numbers with the help of Dr. Faker.
Oh yeah, I do remember that actually.
Which was what number 1, number 2, and number 3 were. They were just fucking fakes the entire time.
Yeah, and then he pulls out Numerons and almost OTKs, and then Utopia stuff happens.
Yeah. Well, number 100 showed up and went, "Not today, kids."
For a while. With the Backrooms movie in full production, I don't imagine King Pixels will have time to come back to this for a little while. So while we wait, let's try to take a deeper dive into what we have so far. Like all of these series so far, we don't have all the information, as I presume the series is still on.
Fun fact, did you know in the original version of Vexel, aka that aired in Japan, that Kaido fucking died on his duel on the moon?
He died? That's unfortunate.
He fucking got killed.
Wasn't he fight against 1000 in the end, though?
No. No, that was the other one who used galaxies, the Barian. Because after Tyke's noble sacrifice, the Barian guy was like, "Nah, Don Thousand's gonna pay for taking my greatest rival from me."
I really have not watched it in so long. I actually don't remember.
Well, this isn't Japanese version. In the English version, he got taken to the hospital by a, quote, space ambulance.
It's very Yu-Gi-Oh! Of them.
Yeah. And Mizar was like, "Don't worry, I'll get Yuma number 100. And I now suddenly hate Don Thousand." Which I find really funny.
It's pretty funny.
I find it really funny how the first deck I used in all those are weekly was called Get Tachyon, idiot. To be fair, it did Tachyon quite a few people.
Yep.
Studio feature film, but I'll try my best to give my take on the straightforward narrative, and then discuss the thematic core that I think is hiding in plain sight. Then we'll take a look at how this story encapsulates so well the themes of cosmic horror we've been discussing. What I gather is that the Meadow is a dimension that exists outside of linear time, which is why in the 1930s, Clifton Saywell was able to stumble across this data center from 60 plus years in the future, a company he wouldn't even live to see. On that note, it's possible that Saywell's career choice of mathematics and computing after the war was due to his glimpse at this literal future technology, but I also think it's just as possible this was spurred on by his attempts to understand the nature of the Meadow. Additionally, Saywell's death in the early 90s does spark the question as to where this 2000s video game is getting its information from, to which I posit a guess that it comes from the notebook he was seen carrying with him. He seemingly never got over what he saw, which brings us to the question of what exactly the Meadow is, aside from a place outside of time. If we're to take the poem from the first video as particularly significant, the Meadow almost seems like an afterlife, or purgatory of some sort, the land you will return to. And there's also an implication that after having visited in life, Clifton Saywell will return to it in some way after his death. But understanding it as a more metaphysical, spiritual place, what's with these data centers that seem to store the thoughts of its inhabitants, or the terrifying and controlling shepherd? The best theory I've been able to come up with the information we've been given, is that this Meadow is being overtaken, discovered by some organization or corporation, and is being essentially colonized. And my take on this is informed by one of the series' most overlooked recurring themes. The references to Wampanoag history and culture are perhaps one of the most central pieces to this story. The very first moments of gameplay we see are a Wampanoag Witu within the Hockomock Swamp. Many of the places and things we see
you done any Easter eggs and zombies?
And then
I did, whatchamacallit, Final Reich.
Ew.
And I like it. I thought that's still the best map in World War II.
It's still World War II zombies, which is not
but
it's
good, man. It's good. It's a top 10 zombies map.
Nuh-uh.
It is. It's just that good.
I have one zombies map that is better than Final Reich.
What is it?
Noctur Untoden.
I don't agree with that, nah. I don't agree with that.
Okay, make your arguments.
I don't know. I just like Final Reich more. Listen, if we were to objectively rank them based on multiple factors being, I guess let's see. What are the main things that one would look for in a zombies map? Easter egg. I don't think that's super. I've been thinking about doing a zombies ranking for a long time. Do that, I'd first have to play every zombies map, and I have 5 categories. Actually, Should have written this down somewhere because I'm having to think off at the top. I'm having to think of it off the top of my head. Anyway, if I ever do a zombies tier list, I'll remember the categories, hopefully. But for now, I'll just say I think it's better.
Well, you're wrong, but you're welcome to your opinion.
I don't know, man. I just think the Final Reich is good. It's like the best World War II zombies map.
Yeah, but like saying they're the best World War II zombies map is akin to saying it's the best in a pile of shit. You know?
I don't know. No, I don't. I don't think that's the case. I think it's actually a very well-made, very atmospheric, very well-made Easter egg. I think it's very fun to play it into high rounds. Like, besides World at War, I think all the other versions of Noct are miserable to play into the high rounds. Not including D Machine, because that's like basically not even Noct, honestly. Is D Machine better than Final Reich is the question. Machine. Is D Machine better than Final Reich? Oh, such a hard question. I don't know. I don't love D Machine. I think it's the second weakest zombie map on that game.
Really?
It is. I really like all the other ones on there, except Forsaken. I really don't. Or is it called Forsaken? The free roam mode. Outbreak, yes, Outbreak. I really don't like Outbreak. That's like my least favorite mode in that game. And D Machine's right above that. Forsaken would be right above that. Then it would be fucking that other map called, I'm forgetting. Cold War Zombies maps. Damn it, I'm really have to search this up. Okay, yeah. So, in my opinion, I don't particularly enjoy Dead Ops Arcade 3, so that'd be at the bottom. Then it'd be Outbreak. Then it'd be Forsaken. Then D Machine over Forsaken. Then Mauder Toten over D Machine. Then Firebase Z. I really like Firebase Z.
Fair enough.
I don't know why. People don't like Firebase Z. I really enjoy it. That's actually another one of the Easter eggs I've done in the past.
There's a final connection that I haven't seen anyone else mention. The title of the series itself, People Still Live Here. Specifically, the title People Still Live Here is almost identical to the name of a 2011 documentary, We Still Live Here, which is specifically about the reclamation efforts of the Wampanoag language. And it's just a great documentary.
And what's chat saying about this?
No one has chatted, man. There's been one concurrent viewer, sometimes two, sometimes three, but no one has ever said anything during the stream.
Damn.
Makes with Wampanoag history and culture, the more relevant this connection seems to become.
Well, except for one handsome devil who made some jokes about, quote, where's the balloon hopping?
Which was of incredible historical and cultural importance.
Is that this stream? I don't see it.
Wampanoag Nation said in a CBC interview,
That was like a few streams ago.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm just saying specifically for this stream, I've seen people come in and out, but no one said anything.
It was sent back to Europe by the colonists and then lost, and it remains lost to this day. And part of the mythos of the Hockomock Swamp is that the paranormal events that occur there are at least in part.
Have you considered getting into ASMR?
I wasn't able to tell
no.
if this idea came from the Wampanoag themselves.
I just don't have the voice for it. I don't think I would do good.
Or something like that. I'd be interested to know if anyone has any clarification about like where that comes from. Then there's the Shepherd. This is a little more of a stretch, but I feel pretty confident about it as a lens to view the series. Something that you obviously can't ignore in the history of colonialism is the phenomenon of forced conversion to Christianity, including with the Wampanoag.
It was one of the many ways colonialism attempted to erase the culture and identity of the Wampanoag, and it's something that the documentary touches on pretty thoroughly as well.
And to me, the idea of a godlike figure referred to as the Shepherd feels like it is evoking very Christian imagery. All of these references, not just to the Wampanoag generally, but many.
So, fun fact, I hate when people listen to my D&D, because oftentimes they'll interrupt, you know.
About an outside force colonizing the meadow.
So whenever somebody tries to listen to a D&D, I say, go to an IMAX and listen there.
This narrative is about the colonization of cultures where people still live. Now, with all that said, I am not even close to being an expert in Wampanoag history. This is all
an IMAX, like an IMAX
and I don't
theater.
know how much of these connections were intentional on the part of Kane Pixels either. It's obviously just my interpretation.
Alright, I feel like something.
IMAX theater.
You want them to go to an IMAX theater to hear you talk about D&D.
Discussion around this series could really use
to hear me play D&D, because that way, if they speak, they get kicked out.
That perspective would be incredibly
Oh, I see.
Shifting gears to the overarching.
Why did it have to specifically be an IMAX? That was confusing me.
While Snapshot Null and Bunny Cotton evoke this feeling of
honestly, it's the only theater brand I can think of off the top of my head.
He builds a sort of grounded reality into the world building that surrounds these realities.
And IMAXs are rare enough that it takes them a while to get there.
Physical purgatory outside of time. And I think that grounded perspective.
That's an added layer to the joke. I see. I'm understanding it now.
Of a place, a reality so strange and incomprehensible that you're unable to really make sense of it, and yet it is just familiar enough to feel disturbingly real. Through this, these stories come much closer to the.
Anyway, this video essay is finally about to finish. I've been pausing it a lot, and once it's done, I'm gonna leave stream because I've been mining all day.
All day, every day.
I mine all day. I mine all night.
Typically associated with Lovecraftian horrors, tentacles, cultists, or biblically accurate angels, tropes and traditions that, on the surface level, these series don't really seem to be engaging in. But I do think that these projects are tapping into the same sensations of horror. That the fear itself is coming from trying to comprehend the incomprehensible, of something that the mere sight or experience of is too much or too alien for our brains to understand. And so instead, we sit with a sense of foggy unease while our brain works to decode the information it's receiving, but is unable to put those pieces together. The first time I remember
I will be back later.
I'm probably not gonna be back because I'm about to end stream. Unless I stream later.
Which basically popularized the idea of the kill agent. In recent years, the phenomenon of biblically accurate angels has taken hold of public consciousness, I think partially due to the recontextualization of what we associate with an angelic figure to fit into certain Bible verses that describe them as these eldritch beings, and implying that the natural human reaction to seeing an angel isn't joy and gratitude, but fear of something that is so much more than us. A numinous horror might be a term that comes to mind. That sensation of apprehension and unease is really difficult to capture in media. You're basically trying to create something which goes against the very idea of being understood, even by yourself, but it's something I think these series do particularly well in various ways. Additionally, despite coming from largely different sets of genre conventions, I think there are some similarities between these projects and the roots of Lovecraftian horror and the whole genre of weird fiction. Now, I'm not really an expert in literary history, but it's my understanding that the genre of weird fiction emerged out of Gothic horror and evolved into the supernatural Lovecraftian style we understand it as now, blending genres of science fiction and fantasy and focusing on monsters and concepts alien to much of European horror at the time, subverting the more expected tropes of the genre before. In some ways, I think we're seeing that same kind of evolution in some aspects of these series. The idea of breaking from the traditional tropes of internet horror, the monsters or imagery we know, and developing a unique style that creates a new sense of horror because of its estrangement from what we expect. Whether that be the incredibly unique and often niche touchstones and inspirations that King Pixel's works often center around, or a unique take on the aesthetics and scares that focus more on the obscurity of the language and imagery, like in Snapshot Null, or going completely experimental and including almost zero traditional scares, focusing instead on creating an ambient atmosphere of weirdness like we see in Bunny Cotton. And interestingly enough, I think that some of this influence comes from a related subgenre of internet art, weirdcore. Off the bat, weirdcore is in fact different from weird fiction. It's a sort of surrealist internet art movement, which has a very particular look to it, often drawing from the look of 2000s digital media, digicam photos mixed with low-res glitter gifs and old OS UI. And despite the bright colors and saturated imagery, the main emotion associated with this movement is dread, unease. The contrast created by its eye-straining surreal imagery and the often unsettling or threatening implications these scenes come with, often created by the captions or poetry that come along with them, creates a very similar sense of fear we've been discussing, as this surreal style is often used to explore themes of trauma and
alrighty then, video essay is about to end, and I can finally leave.
And albeit in a different way, weirdcore seems to examine some of the same ideas weird fiction does, but in a more grounded sense. They explore how it doesn't take a tentacled monster to make you feel you've broken with reality. That difficult experiences can be just as scary and incomprehensible as something supernatural when you're a kid. You don't need to stray into worlds of myth and monster to know what that feels like. I bring all of this up because I think weirdcore is influencing, even in more subtle ways, a lot of really interesting internet horror projects, if you know what to look for, including some of these, or at the very least, they're both taking from similar wells, like liminal spaces. I know it's kind of a detour, but it's an art movement that is uniquely of these new generations growing up on the internet, and I think it deserves more serious analysis, academically even. I don't know, maybe I'll do that someday. Anyway, I guess my main point in making this video, the thing that intrigued me about these unique takes on digital horror, is that it proves we're still evolving, that internet horror is changing. I've talked a lot on my channel about how it's easy to feel like the internet horror community has stagnated into tired tropes, but I just don't think that this is the case. Like with horror literature or film or anything else, this is an artistic subgenre that is fluid and moving, and despite the fact that the surface level coat of paint often pulls on nostalgic aesthetics, internet horror is looking ahead, it is moving forward. I've done 4 of these digital horror videos now, where I find some common theme and explore series that all connect to it in some way. And in the time between that first video, my channel and videos have evolved a lot, but most importantly, I've been able to keep track of how this community has evolved. And there are ups and downs, but looking ahead, I'm completely and utterly hopeful about the future of artistically crafted terror on the internet. So, be not afraid. Thank you all for watching. I know this one didn't have as many series as
Alright, that was yet another good essay. A good essay. I'm gonna put these in the description if you want to go watch them and like them yourself. Anyway, that's gonna be the stream for today. We've mined for like 2 hours. 2 back-breaking hours. My butt hurts. Anyway, that's stream for today. Goodbye.